An awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
Peace, fam. I hope all is well. I hope your Wednesday, your hump day is going well. Hope you're having an awesome day. Guys, hit the like button again. Please hit the like button. Also, make sure you share and make sure you subscribe. Again, share and subscribe. Share and subscribe. Okay, I need to make a song, a jingle out of that. Share. Let me hold on. Let me so you can see Queen Makita back there. Queen Makita. There you go. Share and subscribe. Okay. Repeat with me. Share and subscribe and hit that like button. Before we get started, first off, let me thank all of you who might watch this, or not might. If you're watching this, you're watching this. Everyone who is watching this or will watch this, we're streaming live right now. So everyone who has watched or is watching this, thank you. Thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot. Again, it really means a lot. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much from the bottom of. Listen, at this point I crack up because this man don't like. Okay, no, I'm gonna get into this argument. All right. And you guys are welcome to call in. Again, you guys are welcome to call in. Okay, but we're gonna get into the topic here shortly. Just let me make some announcements. Again, let me please make some announcement. Get the banner going. There's super chat, cash app, all that good stuff. Go ahead. There goes the info right there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. We are rolling to. Again, we are rolling to. What did you do? Hold on 1 second, guys. Guys, give me a second. Let me just message somebody real quick. Okay, there we go. All right, we are rolling to Sierra Leone. All right, again, we are rolling to Sierra Leone, November 21st to December 3rd. November 21st to December 3rd. If you would like to join us, again, if you would like to join us, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa to learn more. You can please visit Danfo.Africa to learn more. Then we're going to Benin Republic in January 3rd to the 12th. Senegal. We're going to Senegal in May for the Jazz Festival. That is May 12th through the 22nd. Again, that is May 12th through the 22nd. Then Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. That is August 4th through the 13th. That is August 4th through the 13th. So if you'd like to join us, please visit Danfo.Africa. Also, documentary time. Go to document. I'm updating the main search for Uhuru site. So just go to documentary.searchforuhuru.com. Again, documentary.searchforuhuru.com. Again, please visit documentary.searchforohuru.com. I am updating the main site, the main Search for Uhuru site. So please forgive me. Give me a second on that for that to be back up and running. But if you go to documentary, good evening, me from Bull Dynasty and family. Many roots, one fam bull. Again, please visit documentary. So it's search for Uhuru.com, but just put documentary in front of it. The site will be back up later on today, the main site. But you can still purchase the documentary. And the idea is this is the plan, this is the idea. All right. In fact, you know what? Let me text my web guy right now. Hold on, let me text my web guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and start this now. Need to create another site like the documentary site to host my documentary and others. Okay, we're going to start working on that now. So the idea is, so you can stream the documentary. So click on stream, you purchase the stream, $10.99 is yours forever. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch it soon, is a streaming service, streaming site, kind of like Netflix. All right, that's all that has always been the end game or the plan for when it comes to some of the content or the documentaries or the movies, the documentaries. So that is the plan. That is the plan. So I'm reaching out to my web guy now to get this going, get this cracking. So yeah. But go to documentary.searchforwho.com. Again, documentary.searchforwho.com. So let's jump into today's topic, and let's hit. This is what I see a lot of people are offended already in the chat room. I see a lot of people are offended already in the chat room. This is why I'm covering this topic. All right. Hold on one second. Where is this? I want you guys, if you guys could read this comment right here. I went to Egypt back in April and seen a bunch of young Egyptians dressed like they were about to do a rap video. They stealing our culture. And I hear a lot of people, I'm reading these comments and I see a lot of Black people who are offended by the topic. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. Whenever a non-Black person or non-Black American is walking around, bebopping, sagging pants, listening to 50 Cent, talking about, yo, bro, the first thing you guys say is that they are stealing our culture. That is the first thing you guys say. They are stealing our culture. They want to be us. I've heard this a ton of times. This is not the first time I've heard this. Yo, man, I went to Africa. They was listening to 50 Cent. They want to be us. They stealing our culture. They want to be us. You guys always say that. You guys always say that. You see a non-Black American imitating Black American culture in quotation marks. And what is Black American culture? For some reason, what up, bro? What up, bro? Sagging pants, rapping, listen to the music. Oh, they want to be us. They want to be us. They stealing our culture. That is the first thing. That is the first thing you guys say. I'm in Africa. And, when they hear me speak, they're like, okay, he's a Black American. Then they say, what's up, my nigga? My nigga. And I tell them, like, I'm not your nigga. Like excuse my language, I did not come to Africa, and I'm not a nigga in America, and I'm not a nigga in Africa. But when they say that to some of you all, you guys embrace it. You guys say they admire us. You guys say they want to be us. You guys say they copying our swag. That's what you guys say. Stop acting ignorant and playing dumb. Yes, you do. Stop it. Because I see comments like this all the time. I went to Egypt. Hold on, let me blow the screen up. Here we go. I went to Egypt back in April and seen a bunch of young Egyptians dressed like they were about to do a rap video. They stealing our culture. I see this. I read this. This comes out of the mouths of so many Black Americans all the time. And I'm saying, how did our culture get reduced to freaking hip hop, or the dysfunctional part of hip hop? How did our culture get reduced to 50 Cent? Again, how did our culture get reduced to 50 Cent? They want to be us. Hey, guys, stop playing stupid. You know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, hold on. I'm trying to find something. I mean, why not imitate the builders that we are, as far as George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington? You know, why when Garrett Morgan created the traffic light? So why when we travel, aren't we proud when we see a traffic light, they would say, hey, a Black American man created that. Imitate that. Create and innovate like that right there. We don't say none of that. When we're in Accra, we're in Portugal, we're in Mexico, wherever we're at, if we see a stoplight, we don't turn around and tell the locals, like, hey, a Black man created that. A Black American man created the traffic light. That's us. Instead, when they start singing rap lyrics, when they start singing rap lyrics and singing pants and saying nigga, oh yeah, that's us. That's our culture, man. Yeah, they want to be us. They want to be us. That's our culture, man. Why? Anyways, I'm gonna put the link in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. Click on a link. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, please call in and add to the conversation. With all the inventions that Black Americans have created and all the contributions that we've created, why are we most proud of seeing some Korean kids or some white kids or some non-ADOS, non-FBA kids singing rap lyrics and saying, yeah, man, that's our culture? But not this right here. Go ahead, Philip.
What's up, Brother Dennis?
What's going on?
It just happened. I was just communicating with a couple of friends of mine this morning on this topic. I sent you two things. One was the amount of films that are coming out of Nigeria annually, and a clip from 1968, what Black America looked like prior to the blaxploitation films. The reason why I'm bringing it up is this. Black America, in my view, does not realize that we've been commoditized and rebranded as a global brand of Blackness.
Mm.
And so, and when it happened, and that's why I said, play this so you can see what Black America looked like in 1968 before these blaxploitation films came online. What happened was we made a pivot from, I'd say, 1968 to 1978 of basically street life, street economy, street everything, instead of pivoting towards Nigeria, West Africa, whatever. And what resulted was a culture that's focused in street life, street accomplishment, and street values. And now it's coming to a point where it's completely toxic. But it was a slow decline into this. But the point is that Black Americans themselves don't realize this is what happened. When you're saying, why do we value the, hip hop artists, or they want to be us? What that is it's a brand of Blackness. It isn't even indigenously created by us. It was created by Hollywood and Black actors and producers that made it up. It wasn't indigenously us, say like blues or jazz or, what you're talking about, Garrett Morgan, the countless one, Dr. Dash that did the LASIK surgery. None of that stuff. It's not being created by us. And in fact, the distribution channels of our image are not controlled by us either. It's completely broadcast to the world who we are, and we don't control that image. We didn't even create it. We facilitated it. And then what was weird was the image was created, and then we started to try to become the image, the commodity, to mimic what we saw in Superfly and Shaft and all this stuff. We actually then tried to become the fictional caricature that they created and that we facilitated. That's my argument. I'll let you respond.
Oh, let me pass it to Al. No, you're right. You made a great point as far as, I would say, post-integration, Black culture became focused on street life.
Well, here's the thing, because it happened simultaneously, and I'll just respond. The 64 Voting Rights Act, or Civil Rights Act, excuse me, by 68, Black America, meaning a Black mother, Black father with a Black family that were factory workers, were at $5,000 less than white factory workers of the same stature. So it didn't fall off right when civil rights hit. Where it fell off was when those factory jobs were taken away, when they started going offshore. That was the legs of the Black economy, because the reason why we had parity was we were basically working those trade unionist jobs the same as white workers were, and our pay was slightly less than the white workers doing those same jobs. But once those jobs disappeared, we went to the street instead of turning to Africa. And because we did that, we didn't build a circular economy. We, at the same time, the Chinese, the Filipinos, the Arabs, the Indians, they all go back to their home countries and built supply lanes.
Right.
And that's how we are where we are today. It's very obvious. You can see it, that how they built their businesses right in our face. That all started in the 70s. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
But what I was saying, if you play that videos, you can see where we were at 1968.
Where's the video at?
I texted it to you. I also messaged.
Can you put it in the private chat?
Let me see if I can grab it. I'll let
go ahead, Al.
AI speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Yeah, good evening, my Salon brother Dynast and Philip.
Howdy, Modi.
Yeah, the body fine. The body fine, my brother. How did they work? Yes, that is, you got the Creole accent, you know.
I try.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I think it's to do with us, like to be seen in some type of way, like when I say us, it's certain generation of, African Americans. I mean, I have to include the Black Caribbean brothers also, because their culture is quite similar, and also it's been heavily commercialized, so it's like to be seen in some type of way, being a gangster, being cool, wearing nice trainers, being more like an entertainer, and we like to be seen as entertainers, and in a way we are entertainers, and we like to be proud of things that are glittery, that's easy, so people can associate you with something nice, but really truly the inside is actually rotten. And at the same time, we do not value the right things for our people, like the lot of the stuff that, I mean, a lot of African Americans have invented so many stuff, but as you and Lindsay was mentioning earlier, it's not for the total good. It's not been industrialized. I'll give you an example. In the UK here, the African American culture is really prevalent right now, but it's not actually in the Black community anymore. You actually have moved on into the white working class community.
Okay. When you now Al, so when you say the African American culture has spread into the UK, can you like expand when you say African American culture, like what is that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, the music, the dress code, the language.
When you say just dress code and language, can you go into detail on that?
Yeah, I mean they dress like the rappers, right? And they talk like the rappers. They use the same words that Black people use. And what I noticed also, in the UK, the working class white kids that actually act like this tend to be very they tend to use a lot of racial slangs, and in a funny way. And the way they do it, it kind of, it's like a borderline between being racist and being funny, right? So not only they actually they have adapted the culture, but they actually using the culture against you, right? So that's one thing I noticed. They act today. The Black guys act like British. They dress more British. Trying to mingle towards the Brits. They don't dress like rappers here hardly anymore. But the people that actually dress like that and behave like that tend to be the white working class kids for some reason. And for example, curry goats, is a very Jamaican thing today. And that was really, really popular. And for example, the Indian, they brought their own curry dish over here, and they make it in their restaurant. White people queue up to their restaurant and to eat curry every weekend. But curry goat today, which is a Jamaican dish, which is well known. When they say curry goat in England, everybody knows Jamaican. It's been sold by the whites, and the other, even the Indians are actually selling it in their restaurant, right? So, you can see how, culture vulture, and also sometimes some of these, cultures are not actually good for us anyway. So for me, that hip hop aspect, they can have it, that aspect of our culture, or whether it was created by Hollywood or not, I don't think we need that. because that have led us to a lot of trouble, especially our younger
Hold on,
generation.
I want Lynn Divinity to call in and cam up. All right, I want Lynn Divinity to call in and cam up. And Lynn, you just proved my point. Burna Boy is using Black American culture to cross over to other demographics. You
Right.
proved my point. You just proved my point. All right, that's my argument. That's
Yeah.
my argument. You just proved my point, Lynn Divinity. You just proved it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Dennis, I found the video. I put the clip in the chat, in the back chat.
Okay.
Here.
To me, I think, you know, what you just said is right. I mean, Burna Boy have used the American, you know, ladder and the Caribbean and the African. So it's like, you know, all these artists, they kind of do it similar way, right? But I think he have, and majority of the Afrobeat artists also, I noticed, apart of Davido. I think Davido is a bit more different, but the rest of them that I noticed, I don't really listen to them, to be honest, you know, because it's not my type of music. But I noticed their lifestyle, you know, put the music aside, you know, Davido tend to be more traditional. And, you know, some artists are very traditional. We know we have to give that to them. Some African Americans are very traditional. You know, the music is very, you know, authentic. And, you know, you can see where you can hear and see our culture in there, you know, without a doubt. But then you got the other group that is actually no good for the community.
All right, let me play this clip real quick.
No problem, sir.
Okay, now I may not necessarily agree with the messaging that was on it, but what I wanted people to see was us. And what you saw in 1968, first of all, you saw Black families, Black mother, Black father, Black child. It was very clear in that video with the baby and the baby stroller. You saw Black men, Black women with suits and dresses on, with you know, their hair done, everything to go out in public. That's what we looked like in 1968. The video doesn't lie. Now, if you start looking at videos, when you start seeing the offshoring of the factories starts in 1972 with Nixon, and as you go 73, 74, 75, and you start looking at what are the videos of the Black Americans looking at, what did the Black family, and you start to see this transition. You don't have to take my opinion. Anybody can do this and look and see what happened. So look, I'm not saying it's us or not us. What I'm saying is that Black America in this period through media became a brand, and that brand was detached from the people themselves. And once it was detached, then it was projected globally. What you see, because a lot of the Africans start to come in the 70s. When they get here, all that they've seen in media for the most part has been Ebony and Jet and things like that. So when they arrive in the United States, they're looking to partner with the Black Americans. But what they find is that the Black Americans, in many cases, are not in a position or a place to partner with them because of where our frame was. Our frame had been shifted. Now, if you had taken those same Africans and they came in 68, 67, 65, the whole disposition of the community was different and something could have happened. And if you look in Africa, who these leaders were, that they were in dialogues. For example, Malcolm X stopped in Ghana multiple times and talked to Du Bois and other African leaders. That's well documented. What's the musician's name? Oh gosh. Nina Simone. Nina Simone lived in Liberia. I don't know if it was a year or 2 years. She lived there. There was a totally different disposition that we had from 64 to 68 that by 75 was gone. That's my argument. And now we're arguing over the brand of Black American that isn't necessarily controlled by us. It's not us that are platforming these hip hop artists. That's not our money doing that. It's not us that have the distribution channels for for the music and the media. We're not doing that. Very, very rarely. Now, I'm open to another opinion about this, but when you talk to Africans, they say it all the time. They saw all of this positivity in the Ebony magazines and in the Jet magazines, and when they get to the United States, expect that's who they're going to meet, and that's not who they met.
Right. Right. I mean, even when you look at them, you can see how African they look, and how healthy they look, how happy they look, and you can tell they're on a mission also, And if you fast forward that to this generation now, wow. I mean, regardless whether it's African Americans or Africans in the diaspora, because sometimes you can't actually separate it in the West nowadays anymore, right?
Well, that's the point, is that we then started to embrace the images that we saw on the screen, whether it be TV or media, and then became the caricature that was in the films. We became the commodity that they made blackness to be. And we didn't realize that it wasn't actually being made by us. It was being made by them.
Yeah.
And we helped them. Yes. On both sides, on both the African side and on the Black American side. Because the reality of it is that we're the same people. We're the same people. We just have had a different experience. And I won't go back through that. But the point being that all of these claims, Dynast, that these people are making is they see the caricature of blackness that's been put out to the world, and they now call that themselves, rather than Benjamin Banneker or countless other people. That's them now. But it's not actually them. It's the media creation of them that they don't control.
Yep. And basically that, decide their culture also.
Right.
And that's a big factor, because then, the culture will go the opinion, and it'll be a wave of one direction, for the majority, whether it's a right direction or wrong direction.
What I will say, though, is there's some hope in this as well, in that if we merge the image makers now, if we merge Black Hollywood with Nollywood and start creating our own stuff together as joint ventures, then we can flip this on its head and actually create a whole market for ourselves.
Yeah. Can you imagine linking New Orleans to for example, Senegal, St. Louis? Can you imagine that link?
Absolutely. I was saying to Dynast, that's one of the trips I want to take with him, is to that jazz fest. We're a Louisiana family, and jazz is my thing, man. So, can you imagine the fusions that we will get of fusing our music and media and things together, the economy that we can create? It just, ironically, this got taken out of our hands and distributed, but we can merge it now and actually come out the better for it if we take control. Like Nigeria, props to them, where they said, listen, we're not going to have foreign models for advertising anymore. We're only going to use our own images, right? That there are things that we can do to get this thing back and to actually turn it into an economic boom for all of us. But we have to see what happened and actually acknowledge it first. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And also to link to both good side of the culture, the African American, good side of the culture to the African culture. You can imagine, how powerful that could be, and also in terms of, I mean, we should be focusing more business, because the reality is we've been doing entertainment for how many decades, and it haven't got us anywhere. That's another problem.
Well, let me throw this to you, Al, because I'm glad you raised that. Yeah. When you start doing media companies, like when I talk to my film people, they are like, one of the biggest issues is we have to have insurance. We have to have finance vehicles to receive the money and to, what they call fintech, the money to pay for these films. So in building the media part of it, you have to have the business part of it. Otherwise, it won't work. No actor of any prominence is going to go onto a set anywhere in Africa if they're not insured and bonded. It's just not going to happen. So we have to build it, right?
Yes.
It's not just the acting in front of the camera. What I'm saying is it's the behind part too, the money part.
Yeah, the industry. And I mean, you can actually have loads of people in the continent you can probably, you can actually partner with when it comes to finance, to do that. It's all about doing the research and knowing, the right people. But at the same time, I don't know if you was at Kaiser's show yesterday when I was talking about, some of the decline of, the talent, the new raw talent, within the African community and the African American community. If, for example, where, you can have loads of black people in America, the African Americans. I know this might sound a bit more harsh or serious, but it's been done in the past, where they can actually sponsor, loads of young black talents, from the continent, and also bring loads of young, black talent from America to the continent. So you can actually mix it up and actually, work into a goal where you can actually, educate them, give them scholarship, and stuff like that. And also young African Americans to come to the continent to learn about their, the tradition, the history, because this is a life-changing thing. It can only take you one visit to the continent. If you come back to America, it can actually change you as a person, because you can, just by visiting the continent once. It's the same thing with the young African boy that's bright, that actually want to go to America to study, for example, engineering, chemistry, whatever. But make sure that scholarship is actually, there's condition. You have to come back to the continent. It's not about brain drain, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of new things we can build, like a new alliance, to move on away from entertainment, and where we, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Finish your thought.
No problem. There you go.
All I was going to say was, I've had this argument with a lot of people about Dr. Umar in that school. And it's my view that if Dr. Umar had put that school in Nigeria or someplace else, first of all, I think he would have had better results to be able to control it and get it up. But number two is that what he could have done was, with regards to the schooling part for Black Americans, there's a whole system that was put in place called the Algebra Project, and have done it as an African after school that we used to have in the 70s. In the 70s, there was Black after school where you would go and they would do a certain amount of African history, Black American history. They would teach Swahili and do math tutoring. And
why Swahili, not Yoruba, Mandinka, Fula, or the Western African languages, like one of the Niger Congo languages where they came from?
Well, I will build on that. It's a weird thing, because I asked that too, because as you know, the Swahili language is for Southern Africa, not where the Black Americans came from in West Africa, right? But what it is that the statistics say that as a bridge language, Swahili is the one that is growing the fastest and the easiest to learn. So that's why it was chosen. Also because they had teachers that were coming from Kenya and from Tanzania and Zimbabwe.
Right.
And so they had people to teach it. They did not have at that time as many Nigerian. If you notice, like Barack Obama's father, he came from Kenya, right?
Yeah.
So it just was a kind of a weird conundrum. But you're correct. The way to go now would be everybody take their African ancestry DNA test and to start teaching these languages in an after school that emphasizes math and Black American and African history, so that we see the bridge of, we didn't start in slavery, we actually started in Africa, and slavery was an interruption of our history. So, to kind of, but the point was all of that stuff existed in the 70s. But by the 80s, by 81, 82, it was gone. Everybody had walked away from it. And the only reason I went to Dr. Umar's school is because, look, schools are extremely expensive to maintain, particularly the facilities, and they actually take taxes to do. So to do it in donations is not really a viable thing. If he wants to have an impact, then he can broadcast. I had a client that had these schools that he was setting up in Uganda, but they would broadcast into the school system in California. So in other words, to have the education be co-education, he would have a bigger impact that way than he's going to have with this school that he can barely keep open. But the point of that is to take the images that we have now that are not actually controlled by us and to rebrand them into things controlled by us. And you can start that with the school. If you had the after school program, it was Bob Moses. You can Google it. Bob Moses was the one that created that algebra project. And it still exists now. And it would help Black kids tremendously. His theory was, look, the numbers don't change. If you can do mathematics, mathematics is mathematics, regardless of where you are. That was his thing. And so you could do computer science, you can do engineering, you can do basic math to run a business.
Let me let's see. Let me read the super chat. Ray Harton. Art was supposed to imitate life, but our life is imitating art.
That's it. No, that's a good one. But I mean, what we should focus on. By the way, Millbury, that's a lie. I don't know what village you live in the UK, but Caribbean culture and African American culture has always been here, and is still here in the UK, and it goes straight into the Black community, to the white working class community. In fact, some of the middle class kids are actually into that scene. So, don't be silly. But the reality is, and as Dynasty was saying the other day, also that we need to stop focusing on, other people's history and cultures and trying to attach to those things while you have, great culture, you have great history, yeah, and your history did not start with slavery and hip hop, and if you go back to the motherland where you actually came from originally, you will actually discover all these things. Because not one time I hear people talk about our empires in West Africa, but they always talk about the far further empire in Egypt. As I was saying, it's just trying to be glittery, light, make anything cool they want to attach themselves to it, and that's just a lazy man's mentality. So we should focus on our empires in West Africa, our culture. Start in fact wearing some of those big clothes that they wear in West Africa, in America. Just show your real self, and sometimes I do it. So, most Black brothers I know that actually I live around there, they actually do it. They wear their own culture clothes. Be proud of who you are. And also we have a bigger culture than hip hop. Hip hop is not really our culture. But however, it was part of our culture, the African American and the Caribbean culture. That was a wave, and also I can see why people were attached to it, because it was, there was there's incentive, to make money from it, right? So you can see why people will cling on to it, because being a rapper, you can actually make millions, but then if you go to be a plumber, you obviously ain't gonna make that much money. So it's about having the general good, for ourselves, have an IQ, based on the community. It's not just about you, because the reality, you can have 1 million now, but if your entire neighborhood or your entire family is poor, that money is going to drain eventually. It's about the long-term thinking. Hip-hop culture is not the number one priority to the Black people. We should stop being entertainers. We should start being entertained.
Well, I mean, this was something actually and it came up on Kaiser's. I think you were on this. But yeah. Look, part of the issue is you need commodities in a capitalist marketplace to sell. And so, for example, let's take the Koreans. The Koreans, because they're competing head-to-head with the Japanese and the Chinese, they needed to come up with new markets. So they came up with K-pop, K-drama, and all the rest of it. Which I just saw an article about this. 60% of the streaming that's being done on Netflix is now K-drama material. Meaning everybody's watching it. So my point in bringing that up is it's not necessarily a problem that we're doing the entertainment. It's a problem that we don't control the intellectual property of it and the finance of it, and that we haven't expanded and diversified our marketplace. That's really what you're complaining about, correct?
Yes, part of it, and we all know it's difficult, to actually achieve that. In back in the days, I think there's few African Americans that own their own record studios, and and those days you can see, the benefits of the industry in the community, that actually it serves. But the reality is, as time goes on, because we don't have what they call consistency, as people, so we actually drop off, and other people catch up with it. You can't blame them because people want to make money, and unfortunately, we can't just focus on one industry, because the reality is, if you focus on just
Al, you're going in and out. Guys, links in the chat room. If you want to call in, please click on the link. Again, if you want to call in, go ahead and click on the link.
Yeah, I mean, I hope other people who are in the chat and making commentary would come up and talk about, what their view of it is. I will say this, that, I mean, just look at the potential of African banks working with Black American banks to finance some of this media and film merger. Just the upgrade of services that we would need to do that, whether it's the banking software or the ability to do the remittances, the letters of credit. There's so much business and insurance that goes into making media. I think it's a real opportunity for us to grow in something that we already have some expertise in. I mean, there are several people now, I don't know if they would participate in this, but there are people who have studios and who have finance that we see promoting everything else, but it's plugging into the Mzungu marketplace rather than building our own. And that's basically what my main message was to say, how about now we take this and actually make it our own and embrace it as our own. And all the Black professionals that would be involved with that, whether that's Black financiers, Black accountants on both sides of the continent. I mean, the diaspora and the continent itself. There's Black lawyers, Black everything,
Yep.
to be able to do that. So I'm going to throw it back to the panel.
Roll image. Go ahead and roll image.
I kind of tuned in like 5-6 minutes ago. Every time I hear Black American culture, it seems to me that is just entertainment we're talking about, not necessarily any culture. So the things we see on TV is music, R&B, hip hop. Mostly it's hip hop culture. And that has become like the culture. And I'm trying to ask and find out, is that the culture we're talking about, or there's another culture that we're talking about? Because hip hop, the clothes that the artists are wearing, that's not theirs. The language, that's not theirs. So I'm just trying to find out, what culture are we talking about? Because hip hop is a music genre.
Are you here to add on, or are you here to ask questions? But if you want me to answer them, I will. I mean, the culture itself. I mean, the industry obviously is run by others, as we just mentioned. If you was listening to what me and Philip was discussing earlier. However, the culture itself, obviously originate from somewhere. So I will leave you to answer to that, because well. You probably have listened to rap music. You never listened to rap music before, or hip hop music.
Again, I don't want you guys to deal with emotions. I'm just trying to say, when we talk about hip hop, is a music genre, right?
There's no where is there anything to do with emotion in there? I'm
Hold
just
on,
asking.
He missed the thesis.
He's missing the point. Yeah.
Yeah. The thesis was that Black American culture, or what's called Black American culture, is actually a commodification of Blackness. It's not actually Black originating. It was something that was created in the 1968 to 1975 with these blaxploitation films and blaxploitation TV. It was a rebranding of Blackness that was a commodity. It was not an indigenous culture that came out of the Black American experience directly. It was a derivative product. And now this derivative product is broadcast to the world in order to say this is Blackness. Now, does it have a through line to Black American identity and culture? Yes, but it is a derivative. It's not actually the culture. As a distinction, blues. Blues was a direct expression of Black identity and culture. It is not what these blaxploitation images and films became. And it definitely is not what hip hop became and what rap became. They're two separate things, but they're conflated. And to your point, Royal Image, that when you talk about that, there is no real there because it's a derivative. And that's what we're saying. We're saying, why is the derivative held up as the culture? And then you have Black Americans defending this as if it was created by them, when it actually was created by Hollywood studios in conjunction with them and projected. That's what we were discussing.
Got that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's real image. Have you got that now? Yeah, you understand now?
But what I said and what you guys just said I'm just questioning, because again, culture is different from music, right? You go to Latin America, the music they do, that's not the culture. That's the music, right? So let's say
hip hop isn't just music.
It's part of it. It's part of it.
Well,
okay.
You have to understand, and Real Image, nobody's picking on you. We're having a discussion.
No, I can hold my own. Don't worry about it.
Here's the unfortunate reality, which is that there were constraints of what kind of economic participation Black Americans could have. And so one of the first areas that Black Americans could participate in the marketplace in the Americas was music. Now, is it correct to say then that is culture? It is a manifestation of culture. But the point is, if you don't know, hey, look, you couldn't, for example, you can go back and look at Black Americans were creating inventions all throughout the slave period. And their plantation owners were taking those inventions and actually sometimes branding them as slave creations and saying, this is why you should buy this commodity. The Black American themselves did not have a rights package to be able to own their own ideas and inventions. So they could not participate. Now, is that part of their culture? Well, sure, they invented. That's in part of the reason why they were taken out of Africa, was they took artisans and they took skilled people, not just people who were, physical mules. That these people had abilities, and so you have to know.
Mr. Felipe, I understand all what you're saying. Again.
Okay, so what are you saying?
What the title says, everyone copies Black American culture. What is everybody copying? That's the culture.
The way we speak, the way we dance, the way we interact with each other.
But Dynast was raising that as a query because this is a statement that a lot of people make of everybody's copying us. And what he was trying to do is to have a larger conversation about what actually is the culture. The same thing that you're asking, Royal Image, but you have to understand the historical context of why music and entertainment became kind of foundational for Black Americans. And that is, it's one of the few marketplace areas where Black Americans could create without legal ramifications or physical ones.
Exactly, my brother. So if you don't have the answer to it, then maybe someone else should just contribute. I think John, is that Jamila? Is it gone?
What are you trying to say? What I'm just
Yes.
because you don't understand or don't want to understand what I'm
No,
saying,
no,
doesn't
no, no.
mean
We already
you need to calm
discussed.
down, brother.
We already
When
discussed
I came on,
this,
I
and
told
it's
you
a
guys I had
question
just
for
tuned
you
in
to come
five
in
six
Wait,
and
wait.
minutes ago.
We're
contribute.
not fighting, brothers. We're not
Exactly,
No,
it's a
but
fighting.
when I came
question.
in, I was very clear
Royal
that I
Image.
just tuned
What
in.
Royal Image? What statement did you want to make about this?
Exactly.
What I'm saying is the clothing, right? That's not created by you. It's not yours. And again,
That's
it's
up to debate. That's
hold
up
on.
to debate.
Pardon?
That's up to debate. You ever heard of Dapper Dan's?
Come on, man. He was getting Gucci prints and all these prints from the manufacturers, and he was making his own with their prints. I know that, but that you just assume
So
because
you
I'm not agreeing with
know,
what you're saying that I don't
Wait,
know.
wait,
so you
Smitty,
know that if you
Smitty,
take
Well,
somebody
hold on,
else's
Smitty,
hold on,
style,
Smitty.
Philip, let Smitty finish. Go ahead, Smitty. Go ahead.
What, but you were
listen.
going to let one person talk at a time.
Well,
Yes,
I'm new up
please.
here, so I'm gonna go.
You guys
Listen,
don't like what I'm
Black
saying, and
American
I'm just
hip
trying to
hop
make us talk
culture.
about
Well,
Can
something.
you let him speak?
Royal Image. Let Smitty
No,
speak.
no
Go ahead,
problem, no
Smitty.
problem, no
Let
problem.
Smitty speak.
Listen, Black American culture is a subsection of Black culture. I mean, hip hop culture is a subsection of Black American culture. It's not the whole thing. It's the way you say that the way we speak is our own dialect. The way we interact is something that came straight from us. I get it that it's not authentic. Oh well, they wear American style, which is up to debate. We created our styles out of the stuff that we had, so it's authentically us that we see other people copy. I don't even have a problem with other people copying, but it's not the
So
whole
Smitty,
aspect of Black American costume. Go ahead.
Smitty, what exactly are they copying? Go ahead.
So the way we dress, the fit is from the clothes and the way we interact with each other. If you look at I have family that's from Nigeria. My uncle married a woman from, I think she's Igbo, from Igbo State. Her son came over here. He acted straight like hip hop, as you would say. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the way we interact with each other. The the modern young youth of the Black diaspora usually interact with each other from Caribbean style or Black American style. That's no problem. That's just how stuff happens, how we interact with each other. But to say that it's like the whole culture or it's not a culture, there's so many missing pieces that we don't examine throughout the diaspora how it got that way. Most Black Americans do not have a problem with that, but when they say we don't have culture or that, man, like we acting like white people, that's BS, because the way American history is that it's a give and take through white people and Black people.
Fact.
So y'all can
Right.
go ahead.
Smitty, my question is, why do Black Americans only feel offended or that their culture is being appropriated when it's a white person rapping or dancing or saying, "Yo, bro, what's up, bro?"
See, now, Darnus, that's not when we feel offended. We feel offended when they try to act like they created it and it came freshly from them. That's the main part we get offended from. I haven't seen no Black people get offended like, oh man, this white dude's rapping. We know where that shit. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be cussing on your panel. We know where that stuff came from. We know it. It's when people act like we don't have culture, that we haven't contributed to this country. When about 50% of what makes America, it comes from African ideas. So that's the main problem that we have. The reason why that person put that comment down is because I watched that Egyptian on live stream. The reason why somebody wrote that in your comment section is because if they're saying that we're appropriating their culture, that's Egyptian. Well, we see y'all acting like us. We see y'all acting like Black Americans. So who appropriated who first?
Right. I mean,
So that's it.
when I was young, we used to listen to some of the radio stations from New Orleans, and when I listen to them, and the instrument I can hear African Americans playing, and the way they actually talking, behind those instruments, I can familiar that straight to the Senegambian coast.
Hmm.
That's African American culture, because it's a well documented fact that this most of this culture that obviously got commercialized over the years, is something that they took from their ancestors, and they carried on. In fact, that should be celebrated. However, if white people want to copy our culture, if they like it, as long as the culture they're not using it against us, I don't have any problem with it. We shouldn't complain about it, because at the end of the day, you see a lot of black people are actually acting white and behaving white. Like some of our women's wear, white hair, and stuff like that. Some of our men's actually behave, certain ways. So the reality is, some people are, they actually feel comfortable in other people's culture, which I don't think is right. But if people feel like that's how they want to live and that's what makes them happy, I can't see anything. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Bro, the first group that ever toured internationally around the world was a black Christian music group called Fifth Jubilee. White people always love black people stuff. So if we're acting like hip hop was the first, no, it wasn't. This always been the thing.
We've
There's
always
no
been the
aspect.
ones entertaining them. We are the entertainers. We've always been the ones
We're
entertaining.
not just entertainers. We're innovators and
but
everything
that's
else.
what they want us for.
Yeah, I said
That's what
that
they
before.
use us for. They allow us to be entertainers globally. They allow us to play football, basketball, soccer globally. But they are not going to promote you. Let's say Dynast, Mr. Felipe, and everybody else in here has some mind that can create something that's going to benefit us as a whole, as a people. They're never going to push you. But you come out with some dance, you come up with some sag in your pants or some swag, they're going to push that. See,
Well,
they want to control the imagery. When
But
rap started,
but that's
hold
you
on,
to
hold
be
on, one
that's
second.
you to blame for that.
no,
When, I'm not blaming
I
you.
think this is a great
Let's
point.
check some things.
I think
When
this
rap,
is a great point. I just wanted to say this. I think we're all upset about, of all this entertaining, we're not seeing the benefits financially for the economy that we create. And I think what Dynast was trying to get at was, why are we calling this the culture when we're not actually selling it ourselves? And that's, I think, what we
Well,
all are.
Philip, like I said, the only time I see Black Americans get offended in regards to the culture is when it's like the dysfunctional aspect of our culture.
I get that 100%.
You know,
Mm,
like that's the only time I see Black people get offended.
I get that.
That's
I'm
not
just,
true.
That's us, man. They still in our culture. How are they still in your culture, man?
and,
He
and
said,
I'm
yo,
like,
he said,
what?
yo, was crossing his arm. Like it's what he said. Our swag, the way we speak, the way we dress. That's the only
We
time.
don't get upset about that though. We don't. We only get
No,
upset when you act like it can't, like y'all created that, or not y'all. When somebody act like they created it, we see it because we know people been copying us. That's
Okay. Here
one
we go.
thing we
Smith.
learned about it.
Here we go, Smith. This is what I meant. Like the only time we get we're vocal when it comes to our culture is that we've, I guess, contributed in quotation marks to the world. It's a dysfunctional portion of it.
You gotta
What's up,
elaborate more than
bro?
that.
And the sagging pants. Oh, they want to be. Oh, they dressed like us. They sagging their pants, and they know all the lyrics to 50 Cent. Man, they want to be us. They want to be
Again,
us.
we laugh at them because they acting like us.
Nah,
Because
we ain't laughing. Ain't laughing.
who? So
No,
when was the
honestly,
last
Dynast,
time you
I
seen
do
somebody?
laugh. I do laugh when I see that,
We're-
but
we're-
some people
uh,
don't. Some people take it
Jonathan
seriously.
Miller is here.
I'm gonna keep.
Where
I'm gonna
you
keep
at,
it
brother?
solid.
No,
Black,
man.
Black Americans do not get offended by other
Exactly.
people copying our culture. We get
Exactly.
offended when they say we don't have culture. When you clearly
hmm
using our culture and copying our culture, no one gets mad at Burna Boy for the shit that he say.
Okay, so
But we're not gonna pretend that in his videos he's
what's
throwing
our
dollars
culture?
around.
So,
Go ahead.
Jonathan, what's our culture then?
The way we dress, the way we talk,
So
all of it.
how has our culture been reduced to that? Burna Boy saying "nigga" and wearing big diamond chains or whatever. I don't know, because you keep bringing up Burna Boy. Why has our culture been reduced?
I'll bring up Burna Boy because he's the most common person ever spoken
That's
on
my
this
point.
platform.
Thank you. You call that culture. That's my point. Why?
Yeah.
How has Black American culture been reduced to freaking hip hop?
What? Now, wait a minute. If one, it hasn't been reduced to that because for every reason, it always stops at just hip hop because that's the main thing that if we're talking about a
It's the
musician
easiest to
artist,
adapt.
if we're talking about a person that's mocking hip hop culture, we're not going to bring up all the other cultures that they're copying. I'd have been in churches in Nigeria when I see, oh, y'all copy Black American preachers too.
Mm-hmm.
I can go on down the line on how much they copy on everything that they actually copy. and
So
it's
the
not even just there.
so we
All,
would do say
all of it,
loud
all. I
black
mean, they
American
got.
culture
I
under
mean,
the
I've been
mask
to
of loud
Kenya. They
black
got so
American.
many fake Bishop T.D. Jakes. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's that bad.
So it's so
But
TD
but
makes because I don't hear white people saying, "Yeah, look at Joe Osteen. That's our culture." Like I don't get it. Like so we're
Wait, so wait, the preaching style,
we're a bunch of
the
preaching
hooping and hollering,
style.
they,
that's not our culture.
Preaching style.
I mean, at this point,
And hip
Dinus, if
hop.
we gonna start saying these things aren't culture, then I'm a questioning what is culture. Because one person brought up on the panel, he said, "What does music have to do with culture?" Play a Scottish sound, I'll tell you that's a Scottish sound. Play reggae, I'll tell you that's likely a Jamaican artist. It's culture.
Yeah, but at the
The
same
way
time,
that you talk is culture.
but at the same time, Jonathan, I can take the way we interact in black churches and pin that back to Dahomey and tie that back to Dahomey.
In other various African religions, but the
That's what I'm
experience
saying.
that,
Yeah.
but hold up, but the experience that we went through did change it. Yes, we have aspects. Nobody ever, for the people saying that we're not African, we don't have African aspects. No, they're full of shit. I'm sorry, I don't mean cussing. They're full of crap with that.
Yeah,
But when you saying the act of the transatlantic slave trade, going through the Caribbean, then going through to the United States, then going to Louisiana, the interaction, the way that we praise and worship whatever God is different from how they do in Africa. That they seen that and they liked it, and they could, I ain't gonna say exploit it, but they seen that there's a way to make money or change something. The whole what's the name? Not prosperity. Oh yeah, prosperity preaching in during this liberation preaching. I forgot the actual names of it. Of the time that the pastors were doing those strategies were used by other people. Our culture is surviving and striving in a country that don't want us there, or where we're the lowest caste. That's Black American culture. Is thriving and surviving. That's why you make songs like blues, jazz, because they're about getting through the day. So yes, our culture is about thriving and surviving in this nation. The way we interact with each other is all about thriving and surviving. I'm sorry, it's not like any other African culture where they have the good and bad, but right now they're trying to strive and survive as well. So you know what they did? They took some Black American cultures and applied it to them. That is what Black American culture is, us trying to thrive and survive in America. And we found good things through it, and there have been bad things through it. But when you say we don't have a culture, that's BS. Jumping the broom, the food that we eat. Bruh, like even the traditional things that we do, like sweeping your feet, that's from hoodoo and other African traditions that were merged together. So we do have a culture.
Yeah,
People act like we don't.
That's the
I think the biggest
It's the
problem is
African
that Black
Americans.
American culture is such a standard. It's not even seen as culture anymore.
That's
It's
fact.
just
That's
it's
fact.
just
Yeah,
a
well,
thing.
that's true. That make more sense. But to say African Americans doesn't have culture, that don't make any sense. Because every group of people in this world actually have a culture,
I
that they
don't think
operate on,
anybody in this
whether
group
you
has
like
said
it or
that.
not. The-
The only
Yeah,
thing I get
you know.
offended by is when people say dumb shit. Like they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Bloods and Crips is that Black American culture." Well, if we gonna do that,
But
then
even that, people
the
claim that.
cultures in Nigeria, that's Nigerian culture. To be killing motherfuckers and sacrificing your mama for money, that's culture. I mean, we gonna go that far. Let's go that far. We can
Yeah,
do
that's
this
true.
mass shooting this white culture. They just got to kill 40 people just because they had a bad day.
Yeah,
Come
like
on, dog.
you mentioned
Start the cap.
human
Scamming and doing
sacrifice.
your family wrong in Africa, that's part of culture. That's how they do.
Yeah.
Shit.
I'm so
I heard,
sorry.
hold up. I heard a
But
lot of
wait.
Nigerians. My
I
fault, go
gotta
ahead.
send money
That's
back
not
to my
culture, though.
family in the States, and they gonna steal my shit and tell me that they building up a property for me. That's culture. My
That's
bad.
not culture. Who told you that? That's not culture.
So we
Everyone
gonna
has
claim
something
all of
to.
these aspects as culture because they're negative. With it, we gonna do this around the way. You know what I'm saying? We gotta have that good old genocide of culture.
I don't think
We gotta
people
do
even
that
want to
shit
have
in
a
mass too.
conversation.
They don't want to do that because it'll be bad.
See the imagery that we're talking about, the culture, right? Those imagery, and again, I'm just using hip hop because hip hop or rap is the dominant force right now. When it started, the imagery that Black people, African people, or people of color are going with, that was not the initial imagery. When those executives got involved, the imagery had to change. The clothes that had to be worn the jewelry, how you present yourself, all of that was put in place for the artist. The artist never came in.
Yeah.
Again, you
Mm.
just there saying, you're thinking, oh, he's not in America, so he don't know. It's
No,
everybody
I
who's
ain't thinking that.
so just let's look back when it all started. How the people were.
Hip hop. Hold up. Hip hop always had a hustling and street culture. It was gangs that created hip hop for peace. So you talking about the gold and all that? Always been a part of it, bro.
Yeah.
MCing and graffiti is older than hip hop. First of all, do you know the 5 elements of hip hop?
No,
Real
I do
image,
not. What is it? No, I do not. What
b-boying,
is it?
breaking,
Uh-huh.
MCing, and DJing in the knowledge.
Dancing, entertaining.
Breaking MC in the knowledge. You didn't even get the knowledge. These are the 5 cultures: the way you dress, the way you interact with each other, the way you need to know the daily news to get around in the hood, what's happening.
So
Back then,
let's take it
these
one
are
at
the
a time. Let's go.
these
through
are
the 5 at a time.
subcultures.
I'm with you. Let's take it one at a time. So the clothing that you wear, are you the only group of people in America wearing the jeans and the t-shirts and all of that, or everybody else in America gets to wear that? Or
You can wear it. Everybody can wear it because the way we wear it is a hip hop style. Yes, the way everybody can wear that, but the way you wear it is a hip hop style.
We
wear
can
it
all
different.
wear
So
we
you
can
buy
wear
the
a hat
cap, you
forward,
buy the cap,
but we know
you
that
put
black
the cap
people tend to
on.
wear the hat backwards.
Pardon?
We can all wear pants, but some
It's
people are
how
going to
you wear the
sag and some
pants, right?
people won't. Some people can wear a hat, but it's a difference on how you wear a hat.
Right.
Okay, all right. So
It ain't that deep.
how you put the clothes on? Got it. What's the next one?
Well, style. I said graffiti. So let's start with graffiti's the first one. The writing system of hip hop. That's a writing system of hip hop.
The writing.
Yes,
All right.
graffiti is the writing system of hip hop.
Okay. And what's the next one?
But you
No,
should
wait,
be
why is
laughing
that
at that
funny?
because the reality is, if the another culture is doing, artwork and selling it for millions, like some
Again,
graffiti
you guys are
artists in
looking at it
the
like I'm
can I
attacking. I'm just
finish?
trying to have a
Well,
conversation.
we have a graffiti artist in the UK. He's actually the top artist at the moment. He's not even a black guy, right? It's called Banksy, right? Some
Yeah.
of his artwork is actually gone for millions, right? He's a street graffiti artist, so he's not funny. Some of these things are actually art, right? That's wicked. Yes, YG.
If they from New Orleans, that makes sense.
Now you have black people saying, "Man, they taking our culture."
Nigga, get the hell out of here. Dynast, stop that, Dynast. Now you're showing up. You showing up. That's the part I don't like, Dynast. That's cat, Dynast. You don't see no black Americans coming up.
Man, they
We know. Be
I
crack up.
I must
It's
admit, I've
appropriation,
seen.
man. It's cultural appropriation.
Nigga, no, that's the shit
Dynast,
that's what you be thinking,
No,
Dynast. Stop
no,
that
but
cat.
honestly-
Stop the cat, Dynast. Stop the
No,
cat.
honestly,
Nobody. That's not brand new in America. We see that shit and laugh at them. That is Lord one today. He's trolling hard.
Hey, the best thing I can tell you, black people probably promoted that shit.
Yeah, in all
Out the
defense,
gate.
I have seen a couple of videos where I read the comments. Some I don't know whether they're black or white, but they wasn't really happy about it. But for me, watching that, I just find it funny. Simple.
Yeah,
Yeah, who cares about that crap?
bro, that been happening. That been happening since before I was born. White people rapping to black people shit. I mean, sorry, black people stuff. Yeah, that ain't nothing new.
I think part of what
And also another fact.
what is making this difficult is one part is we don't make the money off of a lot of the things that we create, or we make some money off of it, but it's a derivative money. It's not the actual money of creating it, producing it, and bringing it to market. And so it then becomes frustrating for us as a group to see these other groups take what we perceive to be something created by us that we don't control. And I think where I at least started the dialogue was to say that we have to realize in the very beginning that a lot of the things that are attributed to us are not controlled by us. Where the music that we create goes is not completely controlled by Black Americans.
Same
And
thing with
so,
Afrobeats.
Honestly,
Sorry.
Phil, I think it's different because we actually do control it. The fact is, people sell out. They
well,
have a choice to sell out, so
well,
there's control in that choice.
I would say, I mean, Jonathan, I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I would say this: in order to be able to sell out, it presumes that you have an alternative within the Black media and finance space that is of equal strength and value, and that's where we collapse. Is that we don't have that. We don't have Black distribution channels and controlling interest in production and media to be able to have the person actually have a financially equal choice. And that is what I'm saying we should do at this point, in that they've distributed our stuff and in that we played a large role in its creation. It is now an opportunity for us to build together the institutions to hold that intellectual property and the financing and economic infrastructure behind it. You know, being the fintech, the insurance. We can do that now, but our ancestors could not. You know, I will just say this because he came up, and I think he'll probably be the first one to bridge the gap, and that is Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan gave a tremendous interview to the Breakfast Club years ago, where he said nobody was listening to me to help me scale my business until Louis Vuitton brought me on staff. When I went to the various
that was Gucci,
or it was Gucci, fine. That he was saying that I could have scaled many years before. I went to the artists that I was dressing and so on and so forth when they were coming up in hip hop, and I asked them, help me scale to become a Black luxury brand, and they all refused. But then when Gucci signed me, now here they are. And this has to do with this issue of us seeking Mzungu gaze in order to build our own things that are of equal value, to your point, Jonathan. That the sellout is that we don't value building our own things to equal value. You know, Dr. Claude Anderson went around the country for 30, 40 years begging us to do this. And now that we're in crisis, now we're saying, oh, you know, Dr. Anderson might have had something, you know. But at the time that he was going around giving these lectures, at the time that Dapper Dan came on the scene, we could have actually done something with it. But because it wasn't co-signed by the people that we seem to feel we need their approval, then we didn't do it. And that is the issue now, is that in that we don't control it. When K-pop uses Black American producers to produce their music, then we say, hey, they're stealing our stuff. Well, our dude went over there to get his payout because he knows how to make that kind of music, because we didn't create a comparative space.
You breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't create a comparative space.
You breaking up real bad.
Nah,
Yeah.
That's your Obama phone. I heard
about you clearly.
Yeah,
okay.
That's your Obama phone. Go ahead.
All I'm saying is that we have an opportunity. This isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing. But we need that Black Hollywood, Nollywood merger. We need that Afro pop or Afrobeat R&B merger, that hip hop Afrobeat merger, that Amapiano house music merger. If we do the mergers and control the record labels and the production and the distribution, then I think we would feel a whole different way about it, because everybody's getting the bag. But that's my 2 cents.
But if
You
people
mean like the artist merger, because the same people that runs the things over here still run the stuff over there. Burna Boy is signed to, I think Atlanta Worldwide or some shit like that.
Exactly. Well, let me give you an example of a simple one, Jonathan. We have all these hip hop artists, the original artists, you know, the Curtis Blows, the Melly Mel's, that had, various hits at the beginning of hip hop that now are not really making that much money. Those guys could go right now on that first trip to Lagos, re-record those album hooks with an Afrobeat song and own half of the masters on that to get the bag again. But we are not telling them, hey, let's go do this. Let's go own your own intellectual property with the Nigerians and own it. And, we already know it's a hit hook. It's just a derivative that you would make of your own stuff that you would own. That's an example of something we could do right now, and those guys deserve to get the bag rather than, the people that own their masters or whatever it is. I'm just giving an example of this is something that we could do. We could do that with Amapiano. We could do it with the countless musics of Africa to take this to another level. But we got to work together and believe in each other to put that together.
Amapiano, the South African doesn't say that's their culture. It's just music.
That's not true.
What do you mean?
A lot of them say that's their culture. I just watched a whole.
Is just what, 5 years old? There's no way that they tie that into their culture. It's a music.
It's
Ghana,
part of their culture.
Hold on. If you do Amapiano, you're not stealing nothing from South Africa.
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
there was a whole big beef where the Afrobeats artist called their Afrobeat song Amapiano, and people in South Africa got pissed. Stop the cap. Stop the cap, bro.
Hey, bro. This is the first time I ever learned that Afrobeats and Afrobeat ain't even the same thing.
World is shooting movies.
Well, Afrobeat, for example, to be honest with you, growing up in Sierra Leone, speaking Creole, and I understand Pidgin, which actually derived from our Creole from Sierra Leone, and growing up in the UK, listening to dancehall music. For me, listening to Afrobeat is like Nigerians singing to a dancehall music. That's why I find it difficult to associate Afrobeat to Africa. I just feel like it's dancehall being sung by a Nigerian with Pidgin.
To say that Amapiano is not South African,
so
part of the musical culture.
It's probably more original to the South African.
But we got our own cultures in hip hop.
To West Africa.
We got our own cultures in hip hop. They sound different in New York than they sound in the Bay Area, than they sound in the South, than they sound in Texas, than they sound in LA. You could tell a Bay Area artist by how they rap. It's retarded.
Yeah, but for them sounding different doesn't take away from the culture. You see, look, again, I'm just trying to have a say on the topic. We just keep going all over the place. So I'm from Ghana, right? I'm a Kan. When you're Kan, I'm a Santi, there's Fanti, there's different dialects, but we all understand each other. The culture doesn't change. Doesn't matter where you go, the culture is the same.
But hold up. Ghana is different because they had the Prussian school system that teach them. But Ghana's different. Ghana don't have that many tribal issues because the Prussian school system was used to make y'all seem all as one. So Ghana is a unique case.
Where are you getting this from?
If you look up how Ghana was combined and why they have friction, but it's not like, yes, I know. I have family members that are from Ghana. If you never heard of the Prussian school system, have you ever heard of the Prussian school system?
No, I do not. Go on, continue. Talk.
The Prussian school system is something they use in the United States that have different ethno groups or different groups of people come in and meld together as one, so they look as one nationality. Yes, Ghana has problems, but compared to other African countries, like I have family members from Nigeria and other places, they're a lot more calm on the tribal
I'm not talking about Nigeria. I'm talking
about don't compare Nigeria when it comes to division. Nigeria is the most divided country.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Ghana is better than that. Ghana actually has some semblance of whole.
Better anything. You guys you're saying you go to the
you ain't listening. That's your problem, bro. You ain't listening to nobody saying.
Okay, let's stay on topic, right? Culture. People copying culture, right? And from what I'm getting is, you guys, if I'm wrong, then you can try and correct me. If you go to different parts of the states, everybody has their own thing they do, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you guys were trying to say?
Yeah, literally.
Are you guys the same people or are you different people?
We're the same people.
Okay,
yeah, we're the same
different cultures, right? It can be the same people, but
we're talking about regional culture.
Right.
They're
Okay.
Okay.
subcultures. Those are subcultures.
Thank
Can
you.
I just make a quick distinction? When we're talking about music and media, those are industrial products. They are not the culture itself. And
Exactly.
so when you are discussing the products, we have to be clear to say that they may have originated from the culture, but they became a product. And this is something that I tried to start the conversation with, of saying these images and creations of blackness became commodifications of blackness, industrial products. And so who owns those is not always the same person as who created them. And that's the problem, because who owns them makes the money off of them. And it's not always a Black African person. So I just wanted to throw that in there as we talk about it, because we need to make that distinction. Part of the anger, in my view, is because things that contain our images are not owned and controlled and profited from by us.
Yes, I mean, even to be honest with you, to some extent, go back to the history. In West Africa, we have African American musical influence in West Africa, in my region. I don't know about Ghana. They back in the days, they did brought their own musical influence in the Western African region towards my region. 100%, that's a fact. And also, obviously, we all know that the culture that they actually have, especially those in the south, is very similar to our cultures in the West Africa, Senegambia region. I can see that straight away. So for me, I see that as more, cultural, to African Americans, like hip hop and those kind of music, than Afrobeat is towards the Nigerian and West Africa. I don't think Afrobeat is actually West African origin. That's a fact.
Which one, Fela Kuti or Burna Boy? Which one? Afro beats or Afro beats?
Let me read this super chat. Say, James, most of the tailors working for Dapper Dan were from West Africa, Senegal. Dapper Dan was heavily influenced by Africans living in Harlem. No, actually, Dapper Dan, that's true, and he also got influenced from his first trip going to Africa when he went to see the Rumble of the Jungle. Ali fought, was it Frazier or Ali fought Foreman?
Foreman.
Yeah. That's what influenced him.
He's right. 1 point.
That's why I say Dapper Dan is probably going to be one of the first Black Americans to bridge this gap and work on the Black luxury creation, the industry, because he has been all around the edges of doing that for most of his career, and I think he'll be one of the first ones. There's nothing stopping us from creating Black luxury now. There's no reason.
Which brand did he create? I know the man. I respect the man. I admire the man. So again, you guys have to see, he was taking prints from all these luxury brands. What's his own creation? His own creation? He didn't make any brand.
What I'm saying is you're correct about that. That he was giving a Black American spin to luxury products that already existed that were.
He didn't spin it. He just took the print and he was making. That's how he got in trouble.
I get it. But what I'm saying now is that he can now, because he has the gravitas within the marketplace, to go and create in Nigeria, where there are plenty of luxury brands, Black luxury brands being created, and create his own brand of his own things, of his own intellectual property.
If he had
has he done it yet? No.
That's why he was taking those prints from all those expensive brands. And he was tailoring and doing his own thing with them.
Here's the problem, and I was trying to avoid getting into the detailed discussion of luxury branding. But let me just say something. And some people will agree with this, some people will not. But luxury branding on some level is related to colonialism and imperialism and what is considered an image of wealth. And part of the issue that Black brands, African brands have, is that wealth was created off of us. And so inherently, when we are trying to call something luxury, paradoxically, in the Mzungu dominated marketplace, how can it be both the producer and the controller? That's luxury. That's what we need to change.
Get it?
Does that make sense? So, like, you know, there have been several documentaries on this where they went around to the Carl Kanais and the Dapper Dans and the different ones, and they were saying, why was it so hard for you to create a luxury brand that the Ralph Lauren and the Tommy Hilfigers and all the rest?
That had his own brand. That was his brand.
But this is the problem. You understand the social caste that's within the concept of luxury. That's a Western creation.
We as a people did not see it as a luxury. Even if you promoted it as luxury, you would have preferred Gucci and all the other shit.
But that's because it's related to us and how the marketplace values us. And unfortunately, in many cases, we value ourselves very much like the marketplace does. So if you have
from the very
Carl
beginning,
Kanai,
we have been the people that the brands was put on our body. We are branded people. It's in our DNA. So we want to be branded. We walk around with like 50 different logos on us.
But that's not a new thing. That's not a new thing. Africans were branding before slavery. We was branding. We was dressing nice with gold.
Again, why are you trying to make it seem like I'm attacking some people over here?
Relax. No, but we're not talking about the center of this, which is that at the highest levels. I'll give you an example, and because I think it's relevant. I don't want to call this person's name, but he was on his YouTube show saying he's going to buy luxury Lambo cars. I actually called in and said, you know, there's a Black American that's created a car that's better called the Tryon. Why don't you buy that? And maybe you can get some ownership in the company rather than, because he's having issues trying to get it distributed, the Tryon car. The guy's name is Robert Patterson. Why don't you buy that rather than a Lambo? Because it's actually a better car and it's made by a Black person and you're a Black person. So you could brand and help brand this Black luxury car. And the dude went out and bought 2 Lambos.
Moron.
But this is in a nutshell us, that no matter what we produce, even if it's high quality or luxury quality, that for some reason we'll value the Armani, whatever. I don't want to, defame those brands, but to something that is made outside of us as the luxury.
Philip,
sorry. Wait, let me just land this.
Sorry.
That the part is that we don't see ourselves as being luxurious in what we produce on a level that the Mzungu marketplace produces. We always downgrade our own luxury making. And what I'm saying is that can change now. We have enough images of ourselves as luxury that we can create our own things made by us, produced by us, distributed by us, that are luxury in and of themselves.
Mr. Philip, that will never change.
Right.
The
Philip,
industry that's promoting us as a people, which is the hip hop, the imagery that's in there. Those imageries are those luxury brands. You understand? So we as a people look to that and we move with that. So that's never going to change. It doesn't matter what brand.
It could change. It could change in a very simple way. You take out the wait. Just listen. Just listen for a second. You take out the G-Wagon and you put in the Tryon. The Tryon's owned by us. The G-Wagon is not owned by us.
Pushing the culture forward. The artist is on TV that we watch.
Philip, sorry. Just to add on to what you said, I give an example. I was watching like a short program in Nigeria about the government, how they actually purchase their vehicles, for ministers and for the government. Then I've seen a brand called Innocent, which is actually assembled in Nigeria by Nigerians.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Right.
I've seen that too.
So you have the Nigerian government going outside, buying BMW, and Toyotas and stuff like that, when they got their own industry, trying to survive, trying to make money, employing their locals. They rather go and buy it from the foreign instead of buying from their own local businessman. It is a phenomenon that's actually quite embedded in us in different ways. So I will not disagree with that.
I
But
want to
that's
say
a
this.
culture. That's a culture that need to change moving forward.
That's throughout the whole diaspora. But I also like to say there is a lot of black luxury clothing brands. They just don't market themselves as black because that's the main problem. My friend and I was actually talking about this. Look, there's a lot of them from sneakers to clothes and everything. They don't show their face, so you won't know that you're black. That they're black because saying that you're black business actually hurts a lot of people. Sadly, even from black people and white people buying it because there are certain reputations and connotations that we have. So yes, I do agree we need to change it, but there is a lot. It's just how you market yourself at the time and place. Can hip
It's
hop
a,
do it? Yes, because hip hop. Because what is hip hop fashion wise is always moving forward. It always changes. So, do I think it can get there? Yes. Maybe with not just hip hop, maybe with reggae, Afro beats, Amano piano, and all these other genres, it can happen. Will it
yeah,
happen in the future? I believe so because you start to see more hip hop artists starting to become independent. Hopefully,
right,
it will happen in Afro beats as well, where they're not signing, where you won't see Selena Gomez and all these other white people and Justin Bieber doing Afro beats. But right
right.
now, they're there, but they just don't show themselves as black faces because there's a negative connotation with being the black business.
I don't think it's a negative connotation showing yourself as a black business. I just think it's useless because there's all kinds of black tech companies. They
Right,
don't
True.
advertise themselves as, oh, we're black owned. It's kind of useless.
I see what you
right.
mean there.
I mean, the goal is to get everybody's money, not just black people money. Give us all the money.
Yeah,
Well, we
yeah.
agree on
That's a
that.
good point.
I do think, though, that it is entirely possible and within our hands now, within the technology. And I'm glad you brought this up, Jonathan, because there are black tech companies that are doing very well, but they are companies, right? They're not marketing themselves necessarily as black companies, but they're owned and distributing uh, black ownership. So I guess my only point here is this argument that we're having about they're imitating our culture actually could be a window into shift it to black ownership, that and to black creation and black luxury. There's no reason why at this point a lot of these black Hollywood actors, of which, because I'm in LA, I see them and so on, and sometimes they're working and sometimes they're not. If they merged with the Nollywood studios and created their own studios, that we couldn't up our level tremendously and create a new market for both of us. There's no reason why we can't do that and have black American banks merge with black African banks. There's no reason why we can't do it other than we've got a mental block that, our things are not as valuable because we created them.
I mean, that's already starting to happen. I got my best friend. He's a filmmaker in LA. He's been connected with some Nigerian actors and things like that, trying to get them over to come work on projects.
That's what we need.
They're just trying to do it vice versa.
That's what we need. I mean, this is.
I mean, it's happening. It's not like they just don't
It's going to take
advertise.
years.
Like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, because you couldn't right now. I'm just saying there's an opportunity window here for us to get it right. And Jonathan, what you're saying is absolutely the case. And we just need to scale it. But to be able to scale it, we need money. We need the financial technology to be able to scale this from small to big. And that's actually governments and, having state subsidies behind our smaller efforts, which can and will happen, but it's small right now.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it's a good start for a lot of brothers to take a trip with Dynast to Senegal, to St. Louis, and see, the potential there, because there are a lot of new music from the continent that can be created. There are a lot of new things, you could discover, from the continent, other than Afrobeat. You'd be surprised, I mean, even it goes from the Anglophone to the Francophone, West Africa. They got different kind of music, different kind of, cultures, different kind of instruments, and there's so much potential in it if you can actually own the industry. Yes,
I'm
but
gonna
not
keep it.
being, yes.
I'm gonna keep it honest. One thing I do realize is that being from America, we speak English. We really ain't interested in going to no francophone countries.
Yeah,
We don't.
that's
I mean,
yes, that's
we ain't gonna
one.
pretend like black people over here like hella,
To be
speaking
honest with
multiple
you, Jonathan
languages and
Millen,
stuff.
Jonathan Miller. To be honest with you, even us, the black Anglophone West African, we really don't fuck with francophone that much because we
Yeah, I
struggle. Number
noticed
one,
that. I did notice
yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's a cultural differences also, and there's a big cultural differences regardless of the tribe that you belong to. You know, when
Yeah,
you come from English West Africa to French West Africa, you will actually see the cultural differences straight away. In terms of the dress code, the behaviors and stuff like that, because they tend to be a bit more polite, compared to the Anglophone, and yeah, and they're different aspects, and also they're more they respect authority more than Anglophone, so it's I don't know. It
yeah.
is
I just want to throw something in here because I've said it on this show before, but I think some people in the chat are missing something that I've said, which is it is my view that we take a plug and socket economy type of build. And I see some people in the chat that are saying, oh, it's all Africa. You're promoting Africa. And what I'm trying to say is, look, if you go into a Chinatown, if you go into a Japantown, if you go into a little India, I'm going to tell you what you find there. You find banks and economic institutions from their home countries within those communities, particularly for remittances. And one thing that Black America doesn't have that we desperately need is Black banks that are tied to African countries to help us scale our small businesses. And I'm talking about real scaling, real angel investing, real VC money. Our banks are not on that level yet. And because of that, we lose.
I
Because
agree.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
agree with that, Phil. The only difference that I would say is that a lot of those people in Little Italy or Little China, whatever you want to call it, they come from those areas. The only difference that we have with doing this is that, I mean, if we're going to do that, even in Africa, are we setting up for the local Africans? Are we setting up for Black Americans? I would think a huge chunk of Black Americans should go back to Africa, particularly Nigeria. Come on, baby. And
Well,
then you can set up all of those businesses and infrastructure. That's usually how it's done. It's not done just on the
wasn't that the
spotlight.
original Jonathan Miller argument of don't talk crap until you actually come here and see what's going on? Yeah, wasn't that your jumping off point? Is like everybody should come and see this before we start saying rah rah what it is, right?
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
Okay, so
I encourage people. I mean, I done brought a lot of my family to Nigeria and friends.
but,
They
but
got their
that's what I'm
passports
saying.
and shit.
That's what I'm saying is
It's
we
a
need.
start.
You were correct, Jonathan. Is what I'm acknowledging. You were correct, and this is what we need. Because the other way has not worked. There is not one Black bank in Chicago now. That last save ditch effort that you can look up the article in ProPublica about the Bank of Ghana coming in to save the last bank in Chicago, it's dead now. There's no more Black owned banks in Chicago, which is a major metro center for Black Americans. And the reason why it's dead in part is because we didn't have the infrastructure in place in Ghana to be able to withstand the regulatory supervision of what happened with that merger. But we can do it now. We can learn from our mistakes. We can bridge this gap now. And I think that's kind of the positive that can come out of this. They stole from us, they're stealing our swag kind of discussion, is that we can actually get better. And so
yeah,
I agree with you.
yeah. I mean, banking
okay,
sector. Can you imagine if you have, let me say, just 1% of African Americans, not all of them, because you got African Americans that don't want to go back to the continent. That's their choice. We don't want anyone
mhm.
that don't want to come. But those, brothers like you, can you imagine 1% of you guys actually have a fund and actually open a bank, for example, in Sierra Leone, because the banking system in West Africa is really poor, and there's so much money in the hands of businessmen in Africa, that actually has been kept in the house. There's no security. Does that make sense? Yeah. If you actually, in fact, have the knowledge base, the people, and some of the fund to start with, and have a bank, and where this bank build trust, because that's what business is. If you don't have trust, forget it, right? So if you have that trust with the business people, they will, all that money that they kept underneath their beds and they dig out of the back garden, that money will be in the bank, and that could be investment, because there's so much money in business hands in Africa, in West Africa, so much money. But the problem is they don't want to put it in the bank. And then through this process, there's so many things that's actually, cannot be developed, because, in the West, that money that's in the house, goes into those banks. Those banks use that money to channel to other businesses to make profit, right? So this is the sort of things that we lack. We don't have the expertise, in numbers to do that. And I'm sure this is why, going back to what I was saying earlier, in terms of, just focusing on entertainment, if you can actually focus on, scholarship and people that do this sort of training, and, it's a long-term future. As you guys said, it's time to get it done now. Otherwise, it's too late, because I reckon in the next probably 50 years or so, in the continent, it will be other race that will be taking care of these businesses. They already are doing it. If you're in the continent, you would know.
Chinese.
And yeah, exactly. So you'll be doing it just like these people that are selling your food in your neighborhood. They'll be selling it to you in your country. So it's a collective thing,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I'll go in. I mean, well, I agree that we should set up banking infrastructure. I also look at it this way. I think, and I was talking to a mentor about this. He'd been to Ghana. He said what a lot of African countries should do is start doing retirement visas for the older generations, the people that have their pension. So they're not coming over and taking jobs and anything. They're actually just there to spend money and live the rest of their life. They're not going to work. They're probably just going to do some volunteering. But you have pensions there that they're sending over there and spending their money and building their homes there. Then you secondly bring in the rest of America, rest of Black America, or in the whole diaspora.
They actually do that, though. The problem is it's always in East Africa, not West.
Yeah. I'm saying West. It should be in West.
Yeah, it's always in the East.
And all this division, you guys are talking West, all this stuff. You guys
the craziest thing is, because my wife looked into it.
Can you not interrupt? Let him finish. Oh, God.
I just want to say this
division
though.
All the time. What's all this division? Come to West. Come this. Where you find your peace, stay there. Just tell people to go on the continent and find their peace where they find their peace.
Nobody said that. Nobody.
You guys been saying come to West Africa, come to Nigeria, come to Ghana. Why? Just tell people to go.
I'm gonna say come to West Africa. That's where our people originally from.
You want people to find peace? Just tell them to go and find their peace. Don't point them to go there, because you let people just pick where they want to go. It's just creating divisions right now. Right now I'm Ghanaian. There's a bunch of Nigerians on here, so I'm supposed to be saying, no, come to Ghana. No, nobody should be doing that. All this division, all this bullshit we keep doing.
Wait. That's not division. That's not division.
Yeah, nobody said anything about
promoting and division is not
what you don't understand, bro, is that if I say come to Nigeria, I'm not gonna send you somewhere else that I ain't been to. Why would I do that? That's stupid.
Exactly.
There's a reason why Nigerians, for the most part, go to the same areas, because they go to other places Nigerians are. Minneapolis is like Somalian fucking city. You think it's Somalian because they just woke up and say, hey, let's all go to Minneapolis? No, there's people saying, hey, come to Minneapolis. That's how you build shit up. You don't build it up by saying, hey, just go to anywhere in Africa. Hey, go to Egypt. Go hang out in Egypt. Go ride camels in Egypt. You love the Arabs out there in Egypt. Come on, dude, get your shit together. I think that's like Dinah. That's like Dinah's being in Atlanta saying, "Hey, man, go to Houston."
Dinah's is going. What?
I think it's great we're having the conversation.
That's like Dinah's being in Atlanta, living in Atlanta, tell people, "Hey, man, you should go to Houston." I ain't been there like that, but you should go. That's dumb. Come on, bro.
Exactly. God.
I mean, well, I think this is a great window for one of your tours, Dynast.
Yeah, listen, we're rolling to Sierra Leone, November 21st to December 3rd. November 21st to December 3rd. Also, we are going to Benin Republic, January 3rd to the 12th for the Voodoo Festival. I'm sorry. Then we're going to Senegal in May 12th to the 22nd for the Jazz Festival. And then we're rolling to Nigeria in August for the Oshun Festival. So visit donfo.africa to learn more, donfo.africa to learn more. And for Sierra Leone, citizenship is available to those who qualify. But even if you just want to have a great time in Sierra Leone, shoot, come and join us.
Hey, Don, I want to say one thing because I just seen in the chat. Some people keep saying that Black Americans built up American infrastructure. I just want to go ahead and let people know, we also know how to deal in Liberia too, in that infrastructure over there. I think you should claim that.
This is right. Okay, Jonathan Miller, you just spoken. This is why I do not understand why, African Americans go to Ghana. No disrespect to to Ghana and the other brothers, but our ancestors, offer you a lovely piece of land, one of the most beautiful, pristine forests on the coast. You got the western area of Sierra Leone in Freetown. These are places that was designed, from our ancestors and your ancestors. But all of a sudden, they all, no disrespect to Ghana, I mean, fair play to them, yeah? But all of a sudden, the war finished in Liberia, and you lot went to Ghana, not going to Liberia. I mean, Sierra Leone, we're okay. But Liberia, come on, man, that's your land, and...
Can I answer that?
So it's yeah, go on.
I want to say this one, because Ghana is the safest West African country, probably the most developed. That's why.
That's not true.
But
that's not
also,
true. That's not true. That's not true.
That's the way they market it. That's the way they market. But now I'll take your word because you've been there more. But also, a lot of African Americans don't know Liberian history. They don't teach us that stuff in high school. You have to really just stumble across. I stumbled across that once I got older, just learning about African history. So it's more of you have to learn about it. Then also the stigma that we get, that is not true, that how we say African Americans put the native Liberians in slavery, which that's not true at all. Yeah, I agree. That's not true, because I heard from multiple Liberians saying they well mixed with a lot of them. A lot of the African American men mixed with the tribal women there and everything. So it's not true. There was tough times, but those are probably the three things that people think Ghana is they promote themselves as the best place to go in West Africa, and the fact that we don't know the history of Liberia, and in fact we do know it. A lot of people think that we did something that.
Yeah, for you not to know the history of Liberians, and for you not to know the history of Liberia and Sierra Leone is very, very shocking for African American brothers and sisters.
It ain't shocking. We went to school in America. They don't teach that shit.
Yeah, that's true. Because Liberia, for example, Sierra Leone, the African Americans who fought with the British, right, for their freedom, to obviously to keep America under the British crown. I know it was obviously the wrong side of the zone, but they was doing it for survival, and also
they weren't wrong.
Strategically, they was doing it for the right reason, and eventually paid off, right? Because those black slaves that actually joined the British and fought, and the British lost the war to the Americans, they're the one that was brought to London, and eventually they was relocated to where is Freetown today. Right,
hey,
and only
Taylor Cooper's ancestor was one of them.
Only years later, for Wilberforce to be built, to stop transatlantic slavery from the Portuguese and the Spanish that was still doing it via Nigeria, and Congo and the other part. So you can see what these few soldiers that decided to join the English to fight that actually stayed loyal. Yeah, and came back to London, and in fact, also through that channel. Not only they managed to stop the transportation of slaves, across the Atlantic, but they actually also managed to achieve to rescue, black people from Canada, the Maroons from Jamaica, and so on, and resettle them to where it's Freetown today. And Liberia, we all know Liberia is a different old story, but on the other side of the war, right, with the days of the basically Liberia was built like late Monroe, right? You founded, but the reality is, these are very important history, not only for African Americans, but also for us, West Africans, in the coast. So for you guys to ignore that is a very shocking factor. I don't know how you can answer that.
It's not ignoring.
Yeah.
It's just we just don't know.
Yeah.
It's like when I tell you the American school system. I'm from Pennsylvania, so like you barely get any Black history throughout that. Most Black history that you learn, you're going to learn outside of school, or if you have a good Black teacher. That's just America, the education. Black history is just as prevalent. If you actually telling the truth, is just as prevalent as white history, because the interaction with each other it was so intense. So I think people don't learn about the colonial society that sent them off. They sent Black people to Central America and South America, because like Liberia wasn't the other one. There's other like free towns that were Black Americans had.
There's only two Freetown in Africa. That's one in Sierra Leone and another one in Gabon, which is Libreville.
If you talk about, I think Honduras. So
I was talking about the continent of Africa.
Yeah, I'm saying they did it multiple times. They just didn't send them to Liberia. They sent them all over the diaspora because Lincoln didn't believe Black people should be in the United States after slavery. He didn't think that we could get along.
Hi, fellas. Let me chime in a second. I got a quick question for the man. Are you from Liberia, sir?
Oh, me? I'm from Sierra Leone, not Liberia.
Okay, I thought you was the guy from Liberia. I think it was about 2 panels ago. I was on a panel and I was bringing up did Africans sell their people into slavery? And he was basically telling me we need to forget about slavery and move on and all of that kind of stuff. Was that you?
We do. I
agree.
Was
that you?
I agree. We do. We do need to.
Was that 1 second? I'm trying to. Was that you, sir?
No,
okay, obviously not. It was okay, so who's talking about we do? Is that an American?
Well, it's me.
Black American?
I'm Black American. Okay. We need to move on from it.
We need to move on. I agree.
Okay, so everybody else get to memorialize their pain and suffering, but Black Americans can't remember. No. I'm talking about, but Black Americans can't remember their people and their struggle.
You can remember your people, but do you have to? I mean,
what are we doing wrong by remembering our people and their struggle and making sure it don't happen again? And making sure it doesn't happen again.
If I can
sir, 1 second. Hold on. He said using it as an excuse. So, sir, we have advanced in America. No, sir, you didn't let me complete my thought. Let me complete my thought. How have we? Okay, you're not letting me complete my thought.
Hold on. Let Chantel finish. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The one who said we ought to move along and forget about it, who's African American. Sir, what have we not progressed in? Do you know your history in America? What have we not progressed in?
What are you doing to protect the ancestors?
No. I asked him a question. What have we not progressed doing? No, sir. I'm asking this other man. What have we not progressed in? Since he said that we need to move on.
Let me answer your question. What exactly happened?
Thank you.
When you say progress, what have we progressed?
Yes. What has Black Americans contributed to America since slavery? Have we not done shit?
You said progress. How have we progressed?
Yeah, you can use progress. Yeah, have we not done anything to contribute to American society since slavery?
I think we have, but I know we have, but again,
ma'am, do you have your money in a black bank?
Yes. So since we understand that us memorializing slavery doesn't mean we are using it as an excuse. We're just making sure it's remembered and doesn't happen again.
Do you have your money in a Black American bank?
Sir, Sir, we still pushing for a lot of things here in this country. So what are you talking about?
Hold on.
What are you doing? Do you have your money in a
we're not gonna get on individualism. I don't do individualism, sir.
Brother Phillip, my sister, what do you do to memorialize our ancestors?
I'm true to me first and foremost. I'm true to me.
What?
I'm true to me. I'm true to my blackness. I raised my son to be true to himself and his blackness, as in, don't be afraid to make babies with women that look like you. Populate your own kind and don't be afraid to do such. Hold on. You asked me a question. Let me finish my thought. I teach my son to not be afraid, like a lot of black men, 99.9% of you are afraid to have black wives and make black children now. You think that it's better. Hold on. Y'all think it's better for you to populate with non-black women, your enemy's women, and then you call your children black. You guys are kind of off.
Guys.
I'm sorry. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I got 4 black children.
Can you mute?
But that doesn't mean anything, sir. Look at our community. What are black men doing in our community? They're abandoning their children and women.
Hold up. Ma'am,
51% of black men don't have kids.
It's okay. Yes, give us some peace and let us speak.
Ma'am, are you married to a black man?
Sir, I was before, sir.
Did you leave him?
I don't want to get into personal stuff like that.
I know he's happy.
I can tell you this about black men. Right now, I'm single, sir, and I would not allow no man, especially a black one, to come into my atmosphere.
And this is how you honor your ancestors.
He's not a builder. He's not a builder. If he doesn't know how to tend to his black women and children and community and mind his business, get out of other men's communities, he's not worthy of me. And that's how I think all black women should think.
Can we stick to the topic, because you came on and you basically distracting the show? So what?
I appreciate your viewpoint. I appreciate your viewpoint.
How am I being distracting, sir?
No, but you basically, can you stick to the topic? So if you look at the question that's asked,
you guys haven't been on topic, or what are you guys talking about?
Listen to me.
Oh my God.
Man. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, but you guys haven't been on topic, so you can bring whatever. You guys haven't been on topic.
Don't talk to me.
I would like to know what black men are doing for their community in America. While you talking about we haven't progressed or contributed to American society since slavery, and we're using that as an excuse. What have black men done in America?
I know, brother Phillip. I know brother Phillip does work.
Yes or no?
Sir, we hardly have any black. I know of one black bank up here, and that's Liberty. And we hardly have any black banks, sir.
Do you bank with them?
No, I don't bank with anybody.
What was the last?
I don't bank with anybody.
Donation that you personally made to a black cause, and name the cause,
sir. Right now, I need donations. I can't afford to make donations.
So no.
And you can't donate to Miss Chantel, the $4.45.
She's trolling.
I'm not trolling.
My sister.
I'm not
trolling. When is the last time you bought a black music album?
If I had the money to donate to organizations, I surely would, and not like Tariq and Umar, not that scamming stuff, but actual organizations. I'm not trolling, sir.
What was the last black charity or nonprofit institution that you volunteered for?
Oh, yeah. There's a place I volunteer for off and on in my area, and it was started by. I'm not gonna say the name, because then I'm kind of doxing myself then, because you'll know where I'm at and stuff with state. But it was started by.
So basically, to answer to your question, sister, we should remember, your ancestors' struggle and stuff like that. But it's about how going about it. Is a question that it should be asking here, really, to be honest. So as I was saying earlier, some of your ancestors did great things. They fought, for their freedom, and they managed to come back to their ancestral land, and they established settlement and trade route. So that's what we was talking about before you just came on. So even though we was talking about something else,
I just get frustrated.
I'm willing to say that it's usually the people that
go ahead,
literally don't do anything to honor our ancestors that say the same shit over and over and over again. If we gonna honor our ancestors, you should go to Africa, ma'am. That's where they came from.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad to, but maybe, she got some points though. You must remember, the past and what happened to your ancestors and stuff like that. But it's how you go about it is a question.
Agreed.
I'm just curious, when we say that we must remember it, did anyone forget? I mean, we say this crap over and over and over again, like we forget it for some reason.
When you say stuff like that, let me ask you a question, right? Are you new to the Pan-African movement? Are you new to this movement? You just trolling? You just new to guy here? Why would anybody say something about their ancestors? Are you ashamed of your heritage? I hear crickets. I want to answer.
Who are you talking to, Colin?
There's 6 people on here.
The guy just spoke. Said he's making a backhanded remark about. Oh, do we remember? You're talking about your ancestors, the blood of your ancestors, soul of your ancestors, who did nothing wrong, but they were brought here to these shores and changed. Never got reparations. Never got justice. Never. Their souls bleed for us to stand for them at all times. That does not mean that you're making excuses for what we are going right now. I'm a testament to Black success in America. I beat America at its own game. I'm successful, and I'll never turn my back on my ancestors and tell them we need to forget. No, we never forget. That slavery, what happened to our ancestors, will last 1,000,000 years as long as we're in existence. And nobody that calls himself a real Black man or woman will say, forget your ancestors or forget slavery. Let's move on. Let's not move on. Everybody else, the Jews have the Holocaust.
I agree.
And that's fabricated.
No, but
right?
Carla, it's how you go about it. That's what I was trying to say,
that's
right?
not up to you. Let me say something, bro. That's not your place to tell somebody how to go about it. That's what that's called. It's called what's the word I'm looking for? You guys always do tone policing. I don't know. What was it? We telling somebody how they should feel about their own situation. I can't go up to a woman and tell her how she should feel about if she's been sexually assaulted by a man, right? I'll tell a woman, well, get over it, man. Get over it. I can't.
No, that's totally. You can't do that.
No. That is actually a perfect thing.
Yeah.
So
you can't do that.
What women who go through rape or domestic violence, do we encourage them to seep in that shit, or do we tell them to go get counseling so they can help get over it?
No, they never get over it, Jonathan. The problem is this. What you have to do is this. You get counseling, you get healing, and you become stronger. What you don't do is wallow in your oppression. And we break something down to you, folks, a jewel from the College Genesis, right? Wallowing in your oppression is when you look at the situation and say, you know something, my ancestors were slave on that, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to become a nigger the way the white man wants me to become a nigger. I'm not going to get my education. I'm going to sit back on my ass and not do what I have to do in life or not. That's when you basically did. And that's a lot of Black people who are in these movements. That's exactly what they do. But somebody who has a real thing that says, look, I don't want to forget my ancestors and everything. And they're going out there and they're living their life. Because let me tell you something. Outside of these social media platforms, most Black people are educated about slavery, right? Most Black people are successful in America, right? And they never turn their back on their ancestors. It's only when I hear in these chat rooms and stuff like that, do I hear people talk about, oh, well, maybe we need to get along. And you know something? Most white people know that Black people ain't forgot about slavery. It's how we deal with it.
Fact.
White people and Black people have known how to get along in this country.
To be honest with you, Carla, I have no dog in this fight. At the end of the day, you tell it, this is your struggle, right? So for me, it's just basically based on listening to you, and basically, or whatever I can do to help brothers. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but the reality.
Khaled, that lady was trolling. You acknowledge?
Yeah, she was.
No, she was not trolling. She was
trolling.
She was
trolling. She was saying that. How do you honor your ancestors? She said that to the whole panel. And I queried back to her, do you have your money in a Black bank?
Okay, let me ask you a question, Philip, right?
Yeah.
Remember a couple of years ago, Steve Harvey made a thing. He said, I don't care about slavery. Remember that?
What did he do?
You don't remember that, bro? I think you.
I say what you said. I didn't hear it.
Okay, let me repeat it to you again. Steve Harvey was like, he was making a joke, right? He was making a joke, right?
No, I'm not. You know, Carla, know me and Carla can have it every day, but right now he's talking about something different.
Al, you interrupted.
Yeah, Steve Harvey said what?
Steve Harvey was making a joke, just a mere joke. He said, he goes like, some people tell me, and they always ask me these questions, and I'll tell them right away. No one said anything about that, right? He said, I don't care about slavery. I don't give a damn about slavery, right? And that's when he just moved his studio over from Chicago to Los Angeles and whatnot, and he got all these white people in the audience and whatnot. And then people start calling, and then like a little while later, that's when he met with Trump, whatever. And it wasn't looking good for him for a while because people kept throwing back in his faces. Why would you say something like that, right? So in other words, basically, most black people are like this. I'm going to deal with slavery my own way. I'm not going to wear it on my shoulder. I'm going to get along, do what I got to do in life and everything. That's 99% of black people, right? But at the same time, right, there's one conversation you don't have with black people, right? You don't say, oh, man, slavery wasn't that important. So you never let somebody dismiss or diminish that right there. That's disrespect. That's not being a man. That's not being a human being. Because let me tell you something, right? You ask a white person, what do you think about Pearl Harbor, right? Oh, man, Pearl Harbor. Oh, my God. Jack's Bond and whatnot, you know? You ask about what about the Alamo. Oh, what about 9/11? Oh, no. Never forget. Slavery, get over it. Because the why? What you're saying is your life, and whatever you mean, don't matter. And if that does not matter, then nothing you do is going to work. No Pan-Africanism, no integration, no civil rights, nothing like that. You do not exist. And it said the thing in the world says it's sad when you don't have friends, right? But it's even sad when you don't even have no enemies. That means when you don't have no enemies, it means you have nothing that you hold dear. That's nothing that you value, nothing that you live for, nothing that you will die for, nothing that you will kill for. When a person does not have something in there that says, don't cross that line, don't go here and everything, he's not a real man. He's not a real person. That's why you don't ever let many people talk about slavery. We can deal with slavery our way. We say, look, we're gonna build. We're resilient human beings. Black America has shown the world that we're resilient. We built everything from our own republic to Black Wall Street to the first black billionaire in the world. We've done a lot in this world. But leave that slavery thing alone. That's only white enemies of black people and enemies of black people who are trying to do that because they want comfort, right? And that's why they go to black immigrants, right? Black immigrants like, oh, I didn't have slavery and everything. But they're playing a freaking dangerous game. You know? That's all I would say about that.
And Mr.
Carla, I think you're raising a good point, but that's not the point that the lady was making at all.
Yeah, she was trolling.
She wasn't making that point. She was saying, why are you guys talking about Africa and promoting Africa? And what are you doing to honor your ancestors? Black Americans.
I disagree with
that. That was her point.
Africa and Black America is one and the same. You know, you got
but that's a different point than she was making.
I didn't come in on that point,
bro, right? Carla, you don't look like that right now. Look at the beard, man. You look like one of those.
What?
I see,
you don't look like that, though. When I look at your beard right now, you look like one of those that you're talking about.
well, whatever. The bottom line is this. Bottom line is like you have David Oyelowo, one of my favorite actors, playing Bass Reeves, the cowboy, the Lone Star, and you got these stupid Negroes up here talking about, yo, why is a British African or British black person, Nigerian, playing a so-called Adolf FAM? I'm so sick of that.
Because he's cheaper.
No, it's not. He's a top-rated actor. You know?
Yeah.
David Oyelowo. Tell me any actor, black actor, or anybody. He outclasses Denzel all of them in his acting.
What?
Well,
okay.
The only issue that I had with her commentary was the assumption that someone that says, hey, this is a good opportunity, this is a good way to reclaim our media properties and so on, is therefore not supporting or honoring our ancestors. And I think that's a binary choice that doesn't exist. meaning that you can honor your ancestors and you can also build coalitions with the African countries you came from. One does not exclude the other, but she presented it as if these Black people who were on the panel had no interest in the Black American ancestry. And that's just not the case.
I don't know where that.
You got to go back and listen to what she was saying.
So that's what you should have done before you come in.
No, I was talking about the part about the who cares.
Can I
about
pass
slavery
an idea
thing.
to
That's
Mr. Kala 1 sec?
But
I just want to pass an idea. I want his take on something. Mr. Kala.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm from Ghana, right? So about 60 to 70% of all the slave castles and dungeons are in Ghana.
How many slave castles Ghana got?
About 40 something.
40?
Yeah, it's a lot, bunch of them.
40 something. I only seen El Nino and one other.
That's what they show, but we have this.
So
most of it is in Ghana.
Let me ask you, what's the big secret there? You know,
why do you want to take it?
No, hold on.
What's the big secret? 40
Just give me 1 sec.
Slave
Give me 1 sec, Mr. Kala.
Yeah, good.
So I watch Black Americans come to Ghana and they go to all the dungeons and all of that. So in my mind, I'm thinking all of those castles should be broken down and put something there that would be meaningful for you when you come through. So when you go to it, it's a renewal of yourself, your spirit, body, mind, and soul. Instead of coming back and going to that experience that the ancestors went through. I just want your take on that. What do you think?
Okay,
about
this is I'm glad you asked that question. Right now, I wrestle with that. The idea of the slave, Black people returning to Africa, right? That going to visit slave that started in 1967, 68. There was an African American group that went over there, and they wanted to connect with their ancestors. They went to the slave dungeon. Prior to that, Black people who settled in Africa went to places like Freetown, Liberia, and places like that, and some went to Lagos, and some went to South Africa, right? And it was about building the new world. But there was you gotta understand something. Coming out of slavery and Jim Crow in America and everything, there's this connection that Black people want to have with their slave ancestors and everything. So therefore, that became popular. So when you go to Africa, before that time, people went to Africa. They went to any place, right? They didn't dwell on slavery, right? They just went to Africa. Some people went to Kenya. Some people went to the Congo. Some people went this. But when that time period opened up, right? People are going to Ghana, and Ghana has always been the epicenter of the returning Black people, returning about their slave history and everything. Now, me personally, it's a very controversial. I'm 50-50 on this, right? If it was up to me, right, and it's not up to me, right, I would tear those castles down, right? And build something new in a place up there, like a museum, monument, stuff like that. I would make it a spectacle, a spectacle like that, right? But at the same time, it's pretty much only the African American that wants this experience to know about their ancestors, because you understand something, right? Because African Americans are the only Black people in the West that didn't really get some sort of reciprocity from slavery. The Jamaicans had the uprising with the Maroons. You had the Haitian Revolution. You had kingdoms being fought in Central America and South America and everything. So African Americans are all of the people that was so de-Africanized, right? That the only thing we think about Africa right now is slavery and suffering, to the point where either we're going to the slave castle or it's so painful that we don't want to be Africans at all. You see what I mean? And
Exactly.
That's why
There's Florida, but
me personally, let me say this. Me personally, right? I chose to make Liberia the focal point of our return to Africa, because that's where Black people from the diaspora, African Americans, Caribbeans, or whoever, had some sort of vindication, some sort of victory, some sort of victory, some sort of power, some sort of strength. They established themselves. They built a republic. They raised themselves. There was like Lazarus in the Bible that rose from the dead. That's what all of Africa called, like Liberia. The Black man's Lazarus. He rose from the dead. And out of all the darkness that pervades the Black world, there was light on the continent of Africa. That was Liberia. And I would tell Black people, if you want the first thing to do when you go to Africa, Liberia should be the first country. That's where our ancestors fought, bled, died to make us
Or
human beings.
Sierra Leone or
No,
Freetown.
it's not even the same thing, bro. It's
Why
not
not?
the same thing. No,
Why not?
Sierra Leone is not the same thing.
Why not?
Sierra Leone is a great country. I love it.
Yeah, but
Freetown is a great country.
what's the difference between Freetown and Monrovia when it comes to the history?
Because first of all, Freetown was British protectorate, the British Sierra Leone Company. Liberia declared independence. It didn't ask for independence, right? It declared its independence in 1847. And it's never had.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, in terms of the people and the culture, what's the difference between those two countries?
The culture is Liberia was founded on the idea of liberty. Sierra Leone wasn't.
Why not? Sierra Leone was founded also, as a point of
Freetown.
Exactly. So that mean what is free? Free. What's the difference between free and liberty? What's the difference between free and liberty? What's the difference between free and liberty?
Oh, hold on. Let me tell you something. Freetown, right? Like, the Temi tribe.
All right. Okay. All right. I think I had it now. All right. Okay.
But Kala, the topic was how everyone copies Black American culture. And this lady came up and started talking about honoring the ancestors. Now, if you can draw a straight line between that topic and her question.
But you guys were not talking about the culture though when she came on.
No, it had become a derivative of that. But her commentary was about slavery and honoring the ancestors. We weren't talking about that at all.
So what she tried to do, she tried to draw a parallel between Black American slavery and the culture today.
She was on some anti-Black African immigrant shit.
Oh, okay. So I'm not rocking with that,
It just gets wild. I mean, and I understand.
It was wild.
Royal Image is correct that we did digress quite a bit, but we were still trying to keep on this commentary about the culture being co-opted and what exactly was the culture. And I'm not going to say that it isn't important to honor our experience as Black Americans, specifically our ancestors. I think everyone on the panel agrees with that. But how they do it and what that means.
What I think is becoming divisive, right? Divisive. I think it's becoming Black people are becoming covetous. We covet things and everything like that. And it's causing a lot of unnecessary resentment between the groups of Black people in the world.
I agree with that. I would just say this, Kala. The argument really is for the Black American. Where does your history start? Does it start in slavery or does it start in Africa? And the answer, hold on. This is what I'm trying to get at so that you can respond. Okay. That different people disagree on where our history as Black Americans starts. I don't even want to say most. There is a split about our being separate because of the slavery experience. And there are others of us that are saying, no, that the slavery experience was an interruption of the culture. And so I'd love to hear your commentary on that and how it's on.
Okay, this is why I see it, right? I'm glad you asked that question, Philip. That's an excellent question to ask. When I was growing up, right? We had encyclopedias in my house, right? And we had a lot of African history and Black history books in my house. And I was growing up as a kid. As far back as I was reading my history as far back as the 4th grade, right? The first thing we learned was there was kingdoms in West Africa called Benin, Oyo, and all these other kingdoms where Africans were taken and everything. And I learned in the Congo, and I learned about the great empires called the Mali Empire and Kanem Bornu and all stuff like this. So I had a background of where my ancestors came from, right? And then I was taught that the transatlantic slave trade, right, created a metamorphosis, right? In other words, basically, it was like a transformation. Once you take people off their land, right, and put them into a new land, right, we became a new people. For example, African Americans are a combination. We cannot be just Yoruba. We cannot be just that's stupid. We are a combination. We're a new people, combination of all of them. There's an old African proverb that says, "Men chained together are brothers." So in other words, this bond, and also then This is why you know who you can tell who's a race traitor or not, right? The one thing that basically bonds us together is the fact that there's in the Western in America, right? The white man put a curse on our skin. You know, he said this black skin, not the red man, not anything like that. That's why you think black people try to lighten their skin, try to get out of being black, right? This black skin in our world, in the white man's world, is condemned to slavery for eternity. Even if you give him rights and everything, that slavery, that curse of slavery that's been put on us for 400 or 500 years and whatnot is still in effect, right? And that's what bonds us together. That if you're a black man in this world, in the Western Hemisphere, in this society, in this civilization, you are a brother and sister, no matter where you came from. That's what it means to be African American. So therefore, if somebody's from Jamaica, somebody's from whatever like that, if you understand that we're all together, it's when you lose sight of the fact that who we're actually fighting, who our race, who the enemies are, or who this white devil is, who the enemies are and whatnot, then you start looking at other black people like, oh man, he's a tether. Oh, he's not one of us and whatnot. You know, people like that we got to get rid of. You know, we got to get rid of. So our ancestors started in Africa, right? And then and we're in America. Some of us came from the Caribbean. Some of us came from directly from West Africa. But we're all a homogenized group of black people in America, mixed with some other races, white, whatever like that. But that's who we are. That's our personality. That's who we are. That's our identity, you know, and nobody's going to take that away from us.
I agree with you to a degree. The only problem I have with, and I still stand by the statement that we should forget slavery, is because our ancestors shouldn't be 100% straight victimized. They're just victims. They're nothing greater than victims. When you hold that against them, then we're going to hold on to slavery. We got past slavery.
Wait,
we got.
What about the revolts, though? What about the revolts?
Let him finish.
We had the revolts, right? We had adventures during that time period. Why do we want to hold on forever for the victimhood part? It's not like they're ever bringing up something positive that we done during slavery. They're only bringing up the fact our ancestors were slaves. They're bigger than being slaves.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jonathan.
Don't limit them to that.
Jonathan, that's why I say we have to canonize our heroes. What about all the black resistance? There was black people in Mexico who fought and formed their own kingdom, right? A state right there in Mexico. What about the Bush Negro republics? We're not all victims. It's how we choose to look at ourselves, right? What about the
Gala Wars?
You know?
But Colin, and we had this discussion before. In the Dred Scott case, he only refers to the Justice Taney only refers to blacks as Africans. He never refers to them as Black Americans because it didn't exist.
It didn't exist. We made ourselves.
So we agree. So we agree. But there are Black Americans that do not realize that Africans were enslaved. Black Americans were not.
We're descendants of Africans.
We're descendants of Africans.
He said the African race.
If you want to be real about it, that those slavery conditions were never completely removed. And exactly, we agree on that. But some of our people think that they were. They think that they were removed in Reconstruction. They think they were removed in the civil rights legislation. But this is the argument: is that what Jonathan and I believe Dynas were trying to express is that it is a progression of history, and that we can move forward while honoring. Some of our people don't think that. They think it's only honoring, and that is a challenge because from the foundation of it, Black American as a even term doesn't exist until after the Civil War. And as far as the Supreme Court is concerned in terms of our treatment, it never stopped existing because in the 13th Amendment, there's still a slavery clause.
Right. They said the 13th Amendment said all other persons. It has persons, right? But if you look at the Justice Taney's ruling, he specifically said persons of the African race are not citizens or nor they have rights And he said, and then he said, and the most thing that ruined his career, he said, no, African black man has no right that any white man is bound to respect. That was the Supreme Court of the
exactly, and that's the core
and that was
of it.
that was never reversed.
Exactly, and that's the core of this. We agree, and I'm glad that you read it, because this is how we solve the problem. What Dynast is doing on this panel and what you've tried to do, which is to have the discussion of saying, listen, Black American person, you have been falsely imprisoned and your slavery status was never completely removed.
Exactly.
And the reason why it was never completely removed is because according to our laws, you did not arrive in the United States as a citizen of somewhere else. Exactly. It's in that Dred Scott opinion. And so it's
people forgot about that.
Because they didn't read it and they don't understand it. And it's crucial. It's crucial to understand your status now, because at the end of the day, when you talk about yourself and your culture, you have to understand what your status is, which your citizenship was never normative the way that Mzungus were under that constitution. But a lot of our people don't think that.
Philip, there's another thing too, right? At the time period, right? They made sure that there was a case where, I don't know if there was an Alibaba. I call it the Alibaba situation, right? There was a black man who was like a light-skinned guy like yourself, right? He was in, I think, Missouri, right? And he put a turban on his head, right? And he escaped slavery by basically convincing people that he was not black, you know? And so therefore, that's where the whole Moorish culture. And then remember that one guy, the Prince Among Slaves? Remember that story?
Yeah.
A Prince Among Slaves? Well, after that, many black people started wearing towels on their head, talking about, I'm a Moor too, I'm a Muslim Moor too, and I'm all the stuff like this. I was a Moroccan, whatever like this, to try to get out of slavery. And then other black people try to say they were Native American. The white man has put such a burden and a curse on being an African that people are trying to run. I think they're trying to call themselves Olmecs and all stuff like that. I'm an Aboriginal and everything. It's all a sick attempt to get out of being African, because I would rather, let me tell you something, how I feel about this, folks. And this is coming from the college Genesis, right? I don't look at any damn situation, America Inc. thing, that I will sell my race out for anybody else. If America does not accept me, damn America. That's how you got to be. And I say the thing about Africa too. If you don't accept me for what I am, what I would do, my identity, if I make you uncomfortable one night, then damn you too. And when you get to that point right there, then the world's going to start respecting us, right? We have issues on it because I'm not saying we're victimhood, but we're coming to victory. We're coming here to fight for what's ours in this world and what's our place in this world. And people can't keep disrespecting us, using us and everything. How many slave movies they're going to make? And they're making millions of dollars off of us, mocking our ancestors and everything like that.
Hey, Colin, let me pass to Alan. Alan's been waiting for a minute. Go ahead, Alan.
Hey, yeah, a lot of great points on here. And what the points that Philip was making about citizenship, you know, there are black people who are owned by Native American tribes that didn't get their citizenship almost till the 1900s. So that is absolutely a fact that he's talking about. In terms
Alan,
of,
let me just throw it even further. There were black people who were still enslaved all the way into the 1960s.
Yes, I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the one thing I wanted to add, and I'm sorry I'm late to this conversation, but I every time I hear about this the title of this program where people are saying everyone's copying African Americans, this that, I don't see the world that way. I especially don't see the black world that way. I see the black diaspora is finally getting to a point where we're all communicating with one another for the first time in a long time, and so you're getting stuff, especially like musically, where you have Afro beats, which is not just hip hop, but it actually leans more towards dancehall
reggae
than it does towards hip hop, but it has the hip hop elements. And what you're seeing is all the music's merging. You know what I mean? As we should be merging, right? And so I'd never seen it as being this negative thing where they're taking this and taking that, because yes, Jamaicans took, and West Indians took a lot from American R&B, and then we spit it out the way that we did it, and then you guys took from that, and then and it all came from Africa. So it's I don't understand why people want to have some of these arguments. I was listening to another program, and the brother who is on there is saying all this stuff about talking about how we've gone ahead and we've had our stuff stolen and taken and stuff like this by people in the diaspora. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Alan, let me say this, bro. What we have is African Americans, Black Americans, and we have Black Anglo-Saxons. You know, the if you look at the white Anglo, this is very funny, and I gotta get off in a second. The Anglo-Saxon, right? If you look at his history and culture, what we see is that we have become nothing but good Black Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxon always has a conspiracy about why he's losing, right? I had this white supremacist call to me in my show a month ago, right? And he's talking about the Jews. I said, let me ask you a question, Mr. White Supremacist. You know, after 50 N-words and whatever like that, we said we let him on. And he said, the Jews do this, Jews do that. The Jews, I said, look, if you claim you're so superior, right? Yeah, we are a superior race. Then how did the Jews get one up on you? You know, Colin, if you can find that to me, man, I'll give you $1 million. I said, if you were so superior and everything, how did Jews manage to control everything you're complaining about, you know? So the Anglo-Saxon, that mentality of always complaining about there's some spirit, not the fact that you're just not smart enough, maybe you just didn't, things aren't the way you say it is and everything, and maybe things don't just work out. And it's like, we've copied that, you know? Why Black people say, oh, the boule, the black boule. Like there's some Negroes up there stopping you from doing what you want to do. Did those boules stop you from filling out that application and put the application in the job that you need to get, you know, to get off your mama's couch? No. You know? Is that boule stopping you from taking that job at Amazon to get your ass some money in your pocket so you can get the dusty ass off to someplace? No. You know, but we always got the Jews, the boule, you know, the this, the that, and everything. We just basically copies of the white Anglo-Saxon. You know, the Bank of America president, right? He said, look, Bank of America is a guy from Sicily, right? Biggest bank in the world, right? And right away, these white people start coming up with this, oh, man, there's got to be some with the Vatican and all this kind of stupid shit, you know. But like I said, all we have is just, all we are is just Black Anglo-Saxons. You know, we see Afro beats coming, oh, they're trying to steal our heritage, and they're trying to borrow from us. They're trying to, like, all you see, when people talk like that, they're nothing but black white people. They're nothing but Oreos, black white people, black on the outside, white on the inside, you know, pretending they're conscious. Watch out for that shit, brothers, you know.
No, absolutely. We are a lot of us have become Negropeans. So I get it.
Yeah, Negropeans and Anglo-Saxons.
Right. But yeah, you know, I just don't understand where some of this stuff comes from. I think it's jealousy and insecurity, because some of the stuff we're talking about that is our culture is not a real poor part of anybody's culture. I watched a video where a woman was there saying that African women are copying our style and wearing weaves.
Oh wow, man, jeez.
Yeah. So by taking the hair off somebody else's head and put it on yours, they're copying your culture.
And also, let me tell you
the
something,
people.
Alan. Let me tell you something, Alan. Hip hop is a subculture of Black America. Hip hop, even when we were kids, I was one of the first hip hop heads back there in the Queens and the Bronx back in the day doing the breakdancing. So like that, used to be colleagues to be bad on the linoleum on breakdance and whatnot. You know, we understand this was our street culture where Black and Puerto Ricans and everybody else mixed together and everything like that. And we had some white boys with us, whatnot. This wasn't the culture. When I went to my boy Ruben's house, he's Puerto Rican. I'm gonna get Puerto Rican food, you know. And I go to my other boys Jamaican. I'm gonna get Jamaican food, right? I go to my other boy from the South. I'm gonna get some soul food, whatever like this. You go into the house and everything, but we were all boys. You know what I'm saying? How did hip hop become our identity? You know?
Well, because we've been told it's a part of our identity when all it is extension of Black music.
It's a subculture.
It's an extension of black music. That's all it
Wait,
is.
Yeah.
It's the latest thing. It's the latest thing that black people did.
At the beginning of the show, we discussed that a lot of what you're discussing, the pop culture, the pop music, pop media, it's a commodity. That black identity was commodified in the 1970s through these black exploitation films and black exploitation television, and created a product to be sold, an industrial product. And now Black Americans are mimicking the product that was made, not what is indigenously Black American culture. They're not
And
the
Phil,
same.
very few people can understand what you just said. You know, in other words, basically they created a black image, everything from Shaft, everything, and we just go imitate it like that was gospel truth. No, that was just something that
I
came
even
out.
tried to touch it, and they chew me up over here. They didn't even want to hear that.
No, we agreed with you, Royal Image. The issue is on both sides of the continent. This is what's being projected as blackness, but the truth is in the lie, because we as Black Africans, Black Americans, we don't control it. We don't control the projection or the distribution. And most importantly, we don't profit financially from it. We get a derivative.
Philip, just like another thing, right? When we was first doing hip hop, right back in the day, we used a lot of 5% culture, right? 5%. Remember 5%ers?
Yes.
It's like that. How come that wasn't the face of hip hop? They came in with this NWA with gangster rap from California. No diss to California, Dynast. But damn, y'all gotta take that L for that shit, man. You know?
Hey, listen, don't hate on straight out of Compton.
Yo, come on, man. Come on, Dynast. Y'all gotta hold that L, man. Y'all gotta hold that L.
I'm not even debating the merits of the content, but what I will tell you is most of the content that got supported was product placement of European products for all of us to consume and for the world to consume as pop identified.
And we went along with it because it put us in the spotlight as Snoop Dogg. This guy's
it was funded. It was funded to become a product placement device. And that is the issue that we're having now, where we're seeing this thing and it's a caricature of Black American culture. We don't recognize it completely, or African culture. And that's because it's a commodity. It's not actually completely of the culture. It's something to be sold.
Correct. It is packaged blackness.
The black man in America controls all black images, right? Whatever the black man in America does, that's what the Caribbean does.
That's what the white man creates as our image.
Hold on. Yeah. So when somebody was saying how the black woman was saying the African is copying the reason, it's true, because the black woman has become the face for the rest of the black people. But then the black woman in America is mimicking the white woman because she wants to be like the white woman. That's why
back in the 60s, brother, they had a movement called Black Americans started the Black Power movement. They started wearing afros and dashikis. That spread all over the African continent, you know, and the Black Power movement in South Africa, Uganda.
How do you know
afros and stuff like this?
How do you know we did not wear
we
afros
didn't have
before
afros
that?
though.
Huh?
No, I'm talking about wearing it as like pride, because African women were wearing them wigs too back then.
But how do you know that though? That's overstatement. I'm sorry, but that is an overstatement. By the way, Too Strong, you're from Ghana. The last time you was on the platform, you couldn't speak, and now you got a time to chat shit on the chat. Yeah, come up, drop the link for him, Dynast. But yeah, our culture, you know, is rich. So Kala, you cannot. That's an overstatement to say, you know, the Africans, you know, copy Afro from.
Come on, let's not look, bro.
No,
everybody,
Afro thing,
the whole entire black race.
Africans always wear Afro and dreadlocks.
Skin bleaching, and all that is bigger in Africa than it is in America.
It's big in Africa today, but it's never used to be like that.
It's always been like that. Back in the days,
no. It never used to be like that. It's a newer phenomenon. It's a newer phenomenon. It's never used to be like that.
Come on, man. Who are you kidding, man? Skin bleaching.
It's not kidding. It's a fact. It's never used to be like that. Our people never used to do that. It's a recent thing. All these bleach products that come in Africa.
What we're gonna do is get the investigation. I got proof. and then we're
Yeah,
come
but
on the
obviously
show.
that
We're
there
having
are
a
people
one
doing
day.
it all over the world. That's
Point of
it's true.
correction. From the
Yeah.
70s. From the 70s.
Okay, thank you.
Is when
Thank you,
this
Dragon.
began in
That's
terms
the
of
70s.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
the 70s.
Thank you.
yeah.
That was right around the time the Black Power movement in America, right? So we're not all innocent. Nobody, no.
Yeah,
What
I
UK
was
was
gonna jump in because I'm listening and I was been outside for a bit. I've been listening and it's interesting enough. Me as an African living in the UK, I find that what we do within the black community globally is we continually point the fingers at ourselves. We continually don't take responsibility for our portion of the bullshit. We
Yep.
continually don't have the balls to get up and get something really done. I don't really appreciate the fact that we do this continually without actually understanding that we've got a massive, massive advantage to take through slavery and all of the negatives around it. We find ourselves greatly in the Americas. Through the diaspora, we find ourselves in Europe. Through business, we find ourselves in Asia and the Far East. I was last in Japan about 5 years ago. The amounts of Nigerians doing things in Japan, you don't even know about it. But what we prefer to do is to reap up history and tear down our souls. And I think it's a fundamental fudging of who we are. We don't stand in this planet like we own it. We're supposed to stand like we own it. Those people that went through the tragedy, those people that
But
went through the tragedy of slavery, let me just tell you, as an African, I recognize them as standing on that planet, on that part of the world, like they owned it. No matter the oppression that they faced, the fact that they always understood themselves as human beings is where the breakthroughs came from in terms of our indigenous diaspora. When I say indigenous, I mean indigenous to the planet. It doesn't matter where we are on this planet. If we're reading books at all, if we're trying to understand ourselves at all, if we're trying to appreciate what it is our position is in this planet, if we take these things on board, we would have an understanding that we have the whole world in our hands. But no, we prefer to talk about our oppression. We prefer to talk about our backwardness. We prefer to talk about the fact that we aren't doing enough. Now, I'm a truth teller, and I like telling the truth. I'm a reader and a researcher as well. And I must say, in my mind, and I know you're going to get at me, the American portion of the black world has led the black people for an awfully long time, and they have led it well. They have led it with dignity, they have led it with prowess, and they have been able to make magnificent forwards for all black people across the world. Now, in this 2000s, I don't know what's happened to America, but you lot, from my point of view, looking at you guys on TV and in the media and generally, you guys look like you've gone fucking crazy. You guys look like you've gone mad, off key. You don't know yourselves again. When I hear black Americans speaking, it gives me a sense of deep failing. Now, what I feel is that it's not your fault. This thing that I talk about, it's the fault of the other diaspora communities that haven't taken the baton on board or haven't been properly given the baton. Now, in Europe, where I come from, where I'm living, we're weak. We are weak. And I say that we're not weak in terms of our finances. We're not weak in terms of who we are. We're weak in that we don't think, unfortunately, in a way that tells everybody that we're here. Most black Americans don't even know that we're here in Europe. And we've been here for an awfully long time. And we've got things and we're in all kinds of positions. But we are not growing to the point of responsibility. My feeling is that right now in this world, where you find the strongest black people in terms of understanding knowledge and what can I say, an integral blackness that's within us. I would say that is Europe. But as I said, the way things are functioning in Europe, you must understand this, you guys in the States. The racism that comes out of the UK is the best racism in the world. I'm not even kidding. It's not blatant like how you guys are doing it in the States. It's extremely subtle, but extremely well planned. And the planning has been from the 1500s. It's not from today. You see, we all live in the UK, and it's rather easy to live in the UK, but it's not easy to make money in the UK like it may be in America. I would suggest that there are more opportunities for black people in the States than there are here. Having said that, we are still very much here, and we're still very much strong, and we rely within our blackness. Now, I would just like to leave you there, and see how you take my comments against everything that's been said. Thank you. I didn't mean to stunt the conversation.
No, it was wonderful commentary. I for a period of time went to school in the UK and at the University of London. And one of the things that I saw and the commentary I would get from my Black British brothers was that there was never any legislation or civil rights legislation that fully incorporated the Black Brits, not in the way that there was in the United States, and that contributed to the marginalization, particularly in the workplace, as I was understanding it. That part of the issue was framed around how difficult it was, even with your degrees, to get access to the employment and marketplace. Is that correct?
I think that is correct. And what happened is that whilst there were many well-educated Black people, largely they will find themselves in jobs that were well beneath them, or indeed that there would only be the one who is kind of been able to break through and get through. You're playing on our side, or you're not playing at all. So that was the atmosphere. Yes, you're.
Well, that sounds a lot like the United States.
Yeah, it was on steroids of what I saw in the UK, that it was a similar model, but it also had to do with the identity of being a Brit, and that identity did not necessarily extend to members of the Commonwealth that lived in the UK.
Well, yes, they lied. Okay, so yes, they lied to everybody in the Commonwealth, said we were Commonwealth citizens, and they said, and told us we were British, but British doesn't extend to people who are not from England, Scotland, and Wales. Really, they told a lot of lies, and that's why you had the Windrush situation with us in the Caribbean and all that, because we were told a certain thing and indoctrinated in one way about identity, and then when everyone went to London or went to England, they were told something else.
Right, the Windrush thing is exactly part of the thing that I'm talking about, and I would argue that there was a commodification of Black Brit that also was produced for the marketplace, particularly in I think you guys, the garage movement, where they started creating these caricatures of Blackness that could then be sold to the marketplace. And I'm thinking, and not to say that I didn't like or dislike their music, but you had the guy Goldie, and there was another Tricky, and there were others. So they created these caricatures, and then that became an image, right?
Well, let me say this: these things have to be understood. England is quite different from America, quite different. So therefore, how Black people grow up in the UK is again going to be different. Now, we are made up in terms of our diaspora here of largely African, West African, particularly Nigerian, even more so, and then Caribbean, and then Jamaican, most particularly. So the atmosphere that we grew up in, that the Jamaicans were here, and the culture, the British Black culture of the New Age is distinctively of Caribbean Jamaican heritage. with the reggae music and all the rest of it. So the way we mix music is different from the way you guys mix music. But I will say this, that in musical terms, unless you are a deep searcher, and I know there are enough musical people in the States that deeply search, if they're not, then you're largely home to Black American, the Black American sound, be it soul, jazz, funk, blues, whatever it is. But you see, here in the UK, we get all of it. We get it from Africa, we get it from the Caribbean, we get it from South America, we get it from the States. You understand? So when we mix music, it's going to be different in your ear. You may not understand what you're hearing, especially when it's not as big as the genres that are coming out of the States. So there's a particularity to how we're doing things in Europe and how we're doing things in the UK. So I think sometimes because of lack of understanding of what's going on this side of the Atlantic, you guys misconstrue what it is to be a Black British. You misconstrue it, I must say.
I'm sure, because unless you've been there and see it, then we are only seeing it through our lens. But what I was going to say is that the commodification of the Black Brit also took place on the BBC TV and also through film and music, that they created a caricature of the Black Brit.
Well, I again, I don't necessarily agree, because here in the UK, the Black people are 3% of the. We're about 3 million Black people in this country, 3 million only, or 56 million people. So whilst 3 million is quite comfortable in terms of looking after, because we spend. I did a survey. I used to run a Black business directory called UK Black Links, and it was to redirect the Black spend power. We spend £10 billion a year 20 years ago. So today we're spending about, I don't know, about 20 to 25 billion a year of 3 million people, which is quite a power base. It's nothing on the level of the States, but it's quite a power base, as you can understand. It basically means if we broke down all that money, each and every individual who is Black in this country could be a millionaire if we were doing things in a certain way, just to give you an understanding. Now, in terms of a caricature, because just like in America, the oppression of the Black person was very particular. The one-drop rule and all of that, which was quite different from the Caribbean. In terms of the Caribbean, they understood themselves largely as Black people who were coming from Africa. They understood that better over the years than the Americans did. And then you have the Brazilians and the South Americans who were completely convoluted within their Blackness. It was all spliced. It was all in the wash. So therefore, their complexity of their Blackness wasn't as strong as that of North America. This is it, which is to say two things. The UK, me in particular, I'm a man that I was born in Nigeria and started here when I was 3 years old. And I was always looking at this country through a lens. And my understanding of this country is that we're in a club. We in the diaspora are in a club. And the club that I'm in is the British Black Club. And of the British Black Club, I'm given a passport. This passport allows me to go anywhere in the world that I wish to go to. And therefore, I've traveled and understood the power of this passport. Now, we both got a passport is a bullshit term. Passport in this world. It's the structure that's set up that gives us the authority to travel, depending on where we're from. Now, my Nigerian passport, I only use that to go back home. That's the only reason I use it. It gets me into Nigeria without having a visa, and I'm in and out free of charge, no problem. You understand? So I'm involved in a club that has a Black British passport, and with that, I must use it to empower myself and empower my people. But I don't know if we're looking at things like this. We're not looking at things. The Black caricature, throw that out the window. It's got nothing to do with none of us. Doesn't mean anything. We have to deal with what is real. Because what is real out here can give you guys in the States a real shake-up. Let me just tell you that, a real shake-up.
And let me pass it. Go ahead, the Robinsons. Go ahead.
Yes, Donis. I just wanted to chime in on, a lot of people in the chat are trying to say that Black Americans are not from America. But if you read true history, you can find it out. I mean, there's more pyramids in America than all of the world combined. In those pyramids, the walls, they have black people on the walls. And I'm just saying, they have black people on the walls, and the black people have dreadlocks. They wear the same hairstyles that we wear today.
Where are the okay? Where are these?
Have you ever read the book, Dynasty? Have you ever read the book Indian Slavery and Colonial America?
Where are these pyramids at in America?
They all over America.
Where?
Especially in Central America. I mean, you can Google this and see yourself.
Where?
And on the tomb walls, they have black people just like the pyramids in Egypt.
Where?
In Mexico. In Cancun. I mean, if you go look for yourself, you can find it. But a lot of people just get mad.
Talking about
we're not African. They take that as an offense that we say we're not African. I think my grandmama knew she was of the Washita tribe.
Washita.
Yeah, Washita tribe in Monroe, Louisiana. Have you ever read the book called Indian Slavery and Colonial America?
Yeah, the Indians enslaved black Africans.
Yes, no. They captured Indians, the indigenous people. They captured them and enslaved them. And after slavery, they reclassified the Indians as black, Negro, mulatto, I mean, you can laugh all you want. It's the truth. You want to be African so bad, but I mean, you're not. And they would never.
Can I ask you, the person who's speaking? Can I ask you, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an African of African heritage, or yourself as something different? Can you explain that?
You know what? I see myself as African. Because I mean, we all are African as black people. But what I'm saying is the black people in America have been here for thousands of years. There's no slave ship. They got all the technology in the world to mount the ocean. Ships. There's no slave. Why? Okay, Donis, why is not a slave ship in the museum? Give me a reason.
The same way I cannot recover my dad's 8-track player. What's the point?
I'm just saying.
Because they took apart. Hold on. You can prove this out. There's no slave ship because they took apart the ships and they used them in other buildings once they brought them.
Can you prove this? Or you just talking about
you can actually, you can prove it. You can go all along the East Coast and you will find the parts of those ships in the roads and in the buildings of colonial America.
Now you just lying.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible to take that point of view and tell a man that he's lying. Listen, if I can, just real quick, I do apologize.
He hasn't been there, obviously. It's not something that's hidden. You can find the ballast stones from the ship and the pieces of the ships in those colonial homes. It's not a secret, man.
That's not true. Let
me just come in real quick. See, the brother with the guy T.
Hold on, Jack. One second. I got Robinson. So where's the ships that brought white people over? Are the white people indigenous to America too?
No, not at all. I mean, they came on sailboats.
Where's their ships?
They had sailboats back then. Donis, have you ever
heard of sailboats? Where are their sailboats?
I don't know what the sailboats are. You got to ask them that question.
This is why I've got to put this in. Donis, I apologize, man. This is why I've got to put this in. You see, 400 years, because the point of view that black Americans come from when they say slavery did not even happen and that we've been in.
No, we never said slavery.
Wait, let me land, my brother. Let me land, please. Because it's not only you that are saying this. I've heard it many times before, and it's a hog of nonsense that's mixed up in my terms. However, if you just use your mind and understand that, one, there are too many correlations between Africa, West Africa more particularly, and the whole of the Americas, from Brazil right up to Canada, from Argentina, I beg your pardon, right up to Canada. There's too much there that is intrinsically African of the last 500 years. That's our culture. It's easily recognizable by me, who is an African. One. Two, there are, in Ghana, we've just discussed that there's Almina and all these other castles that were involved in the slave trade. Three, and most importantly, where the ships are concerned, you have to understand over 400 years that we were being trafficked there, pissing, shitting, having periods from the women, sweating upon wood. Wood is something that would disintegrate, especially with these kinds of items laid upon them for 400 years. So these things are destroyed. But if you come to London, my friend, if you come to London and you have a clean mind, not a mind full of suspicion, then I will show you shits, clippers that were used both as traveling of tea and the traveling of slaves. I will show you them. All this suspicion, idiotic suspicion, completely.
Okay.
Wait,
So
let me land. I haven't finished. Completely idiotic suspicion that says, where are the slave ships? It means that you personally need to think before you utter where the slave ships are.
I mean, you kind of proved my point, because there's no way that you can pack 300 people at the bottom of a slave ship, right? On a 3
I
month.
didn't prove your point. I didn't prove your point. I don't know what you were listening to.
Can I finish? Because you're not letting me talk.
Go for
But
it.
anyway, you can't pack 300 people at the bottom. I have a boat myself. You know, a boat rocks in the water. So if you have 300 people at the bottom of a slave ship pissing and shitting on each other for a 3 month voyage, who's going to go down there to give them food? Who's going to go give them clean water?
Okay, no, wait, let me just quickly answer that question. I will quickly, just 2 seconds, my brother.
Can I finish?
Yes, you may, bro. But can I quickly answer your question?
Oh, God. You ain't let me finish.
You put a question, bro. You put a question out. So I want to answer
I'm not
it.
finished with the question.
Oh,
I'm not
really?
finished. Okay,
Oh,
you got 300 people at the bottom of the slave ship on a 3 month voyage. Who's going to go down there and give them food and water? They're pissing and shitting on each other. There's no restroom. They can't even get up and walk, you know, because, I mean, the headspace was only like 30-some inches. I read it. It's just a diagram. It's no proof that they actually brought us across the water on a slave ship. It's no proof. The proof is that they took the indigenous people in America into slavery. Soul food is indigenous American food. I mean, you can laugh all you want. I don't care.
You are being laughed at. You are being laughed at because you are denying a reality. Now, brother, I'm not telling you, for an instance, that we are not the first travelers of this world as Africans. And I'm not telling you for half a second that we didn't reach the Americas before the Europeans did. I'm not telling you that. I know that we did. You understand? But this does not cancel the fact that slavery took place.
I never said slavery didn't take place. I said they captured the
indigenous people. You asked the pertinent question, or maybe impertinent, that how can they survive under these conditions under a ship with pissing and shitting? These days,
that's a super pandemic. I mean,
well, let me say
gonna
this
walk
to
the bottom deck to give them water and food, man?
Well, this is the question I wanted to answer.
Okay, and then when they get to the shoreline, who's gonna spray them off and clean them off with piss and shit for months?
This is the question I wanted to answer.
Then they got to walk 300 miles to a plantation. I mean, that's impossible. That's impossible.
No, bro, you don't understand.
That's common sense. You don't understand. That's common sense.
No, I don't think you're thinking this through. The people that were taken away as slaves, they're not us. They were built of a different institution. They're much stronger than we were. The white people them days there were not looking at T's and C's. They weren't looking at T's and C's. These are hardened shipmen. Hardened. They're not you and me. They're not pansies. These are real men. You know, today we're pansies. Believe me. You know, just taking from my grandfather and my father to me, I can see the level of degradation that the human being himself.
You didn't explain.
Wait, you're not. Please, I need you to understand what I'm saying.
You didn't explain how
there's something very simple on this. The Robinsons.
I'm listening.
You understand that the indigenous people held African slaves, correct?
Yeah, you know what?
Hold on, I'm not done. You understand that they held African slaves.
Yeah, you're talking about the Mongoloid natives who are actually not indigenous to America. They actually walked over from Asia.
Hold on. The African slaves were held by indigenous people in the Americas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So now slavery was held in place because if the Africans who were brought in as slaves could easily go and make commune with the indigenous people, then the slavery wouldn't work, correct? You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So then you are now saying that those indigenous people had so little acknowledgement of their Africanness that they held their own brothers in slavery?
Yeah, some people did. I mean, you know, they were tribal people, so they had enemies. They had enemy tribes. I've actually read this stuff. Y'all just talking stuff that we know from white people.
So then, hold on. Okay, so now you're saying that the African indigenous held the African new slave in slavery.
No, I'm saying there were indigenous black people in America. There were black tribes in America.
Held slaves because the indigenous groups held slaves. That's how slavery was held in part in the Americas.
But they captured enemy tribes.
What I'm trying to get at is you understand there will be no reparations if Africans are on both sides of that transaction. If African indigenous accept the slaves that were sold to the Europeans by the Africans in Africa, they're on both sides. They're on the seller and the buyer, correct?
And the product itself.
What is the reparations component? Because I assume you also support reparations, that the Europeans who would then be the pass-through, what part of that would lead to some sort of reparations from the Europeans, since there were indigenous people who also were buyers of these African slaves? How does it work? Explain it to me.
They weren't African slaves. I just told you that. So what you said, African slaves,
the African indigenous.
You didn't tell anyone anything, or you said it. You didn't tell. You're not telling no one. You're not educating anybody here, my brother. You're not.
What I'm getting at is
what white people have told us all our life. Y'all learned in the schools.
The white people have told you, not me. They told you.
No white people told me I was indigenous.
Just think it through.
They would never tell you that you're indigenous.
Just think it through. You are a buyer,
so
and
what
you're
white
also
what
a
white
seller.
person have said that we are indigenous to America? Name one. Give me a name.
Bro, the other day,
Wait. We're not staying on the point here. You're a buyer of African slaves, and you're also a seller of African slaves, right? Because you're saying the indigenous Africans actually held African slaves.
I said the indigenous Americans.
So then where does the reparations happen?
They sold other tribes out.
Where does the reparations happen? Because you are not a victim if you're a buyer.
Brother Philip, you're speaking facts, but you're going so deep. I tell you how to cut this, my brother. Let me tell you this. You see, most of the so-called Native Americans, be they Apache, be they Seminole, be they whoever they may be, most of these people, as much as they have lost their culture and heritage and land, and they've been completely demoralized as a nation, these people still hold semblances of their language. You now begin to tell me, where is this so-called?
That's not true,
my brother. Let me.
That's not true.
Don't tell me it's not true. I want you to answer.
In America. I've been to Indian reservations, man, in Arizona. They did not speak their native language, bro.
No, I'm saying that they still have vestiges of this. It's still there. It's still apparent. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Me, I don't know any languages of this, but I can mimic them from what I've read and what I've come across on TV, and what I can mimic these things. Yeah. However, I'm asking you now to bring me this so-called indigenous black language. Bring it out.
Hebrew.
Bring it out.
The Indians spoke a form of Hebrew.
My brother.
So you're Hebrew too?
No. I've never said I'm Hebrew. I'm an Israelite or anything. I just said that the indigenous people of America spoke a form of Hebrew. I mean, that's documented.
Okay.
I mean, you can laugh all you want. That just means you haven't read.
Oh no. Okay, it's documented. Now bring me to those people who kept it. Because if it's there, if it was original to be there, somebody would have kept it. You understand? It can't just disappear.
Do this conflate. There were the White Plains Indians, and then there are the indigenous groups that were in Mexico.
And those were people that were running to take land. Those were people that were running for their own advantages.
There are different groups of Indians or native peoples.
There were thousands of tribes. There were thousands of tribes in America. And somehow y'all think there were no black people.
They're not the same.
I didn't say that. I asked you a direct question.
They're not the same.
Where is the language?
I just told you they spoke
you said that. But who speaks this now?
How will we speak the language? There's a breakdown of that.
That happened to everyone else as well. That happened to everyone who was indigenous.
I mean, that's like saying, okay, we from Africa. That's like saying, why don't we speak an African language when they beat it out of us?
No, that's not like saying that, my brother.
Speak the language.
But it's like saying this. It's like saying this. It's like saying this, my brother. It's like saying this. You see, the white people came to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They decimated a lot of cultures, but they committed genocide just as they did in the America. But they didn't kill us like they killed the Aborigine and like they killed out the Americans. But we still have all the vestiges of our culture and language. We have it. The Americans who are so-called Indian Americans, they still have it. The Aborigines of Australia who were killed out, there's only a few of them left, but they still have their language. Where is the language for the Black American? Don't tell me, because you're telling me, look, there are.
How would I know the
Wait, let me just land this. There are over 47 million Black Americans. You telling me that they're native would tell me that there will be a vestige of that language amongst those people. If there is not, my brother, you got no leg to stand on.
I don't know every Black indigenous person. Have you ever heard of the Shinnecock tribe?
That's joke too.
Dude, the problem is that the Indians that were in North America were not the same Indians.
Have you ever read a first-hand account of them coming to America? Have you ever read a first-hand account?
I have actually lived in Mexico and seen these Olmec statues that everybody likes to reference. I went to Teotihuacan. I went there. I've seen the Templo Mayor. And let me tell you, those natives that were there in Mexico were not the same group or even related group to the natives that were in what is now the United States. It's not even close. And there was some dude that was in the comments talking about the natives gave free passage to the Black Americans. What happened was there was a Black.
I've heard that before too.
There was a Black African mulatto named Vicente Guerrero.
Yeah, I know. Who in the 1800s.
That
he outlawed slavery in Mexico.
Yeah, he outlawed slavery. But that guy was a descendant of the slave trade. He was not an indigenous anything. And it's not even related other than the fact that during the guerrilla wars prior to the Civil War, that some Black slaves were able to escape into Mexico, which had a different situation. But back to this point, you got to understand the Olmecs. If you go and see those statue heads and see the size of the people, I'm sorry to tell you, they were not Africans. They didn't even look like Africans. But you got to go. The Museum of Anthropology is in Mexico City, and you can go see that. You can go see these heads and look at them yourself. And if you look at them and think that those people were African, then that's a whole other discussion.
Can I quickly jam in here, bro? I mean, I don't know. I've seen the heads. I was in Spain 10 years ago, and they brought all the heads, the Olmec heads, into Spain, and I went to this festival where they were, the museum. Now, in looking at them, my brother, you have to understand that we have been lied to. You see, this thing that we're trying to tiptoe over is quite fraught with many lines that we really have to appreciate, and we don't appreciate it because we read one book now or we've seen one statue. Because
I got many statues.
Wait, let me land, please, my brother. Let me land, my brother. Please let me land.
I wish I could share this with y'all. So y'all can see.
Yeah. I mean, let me just land. Bro, my thought process, my brother. You know, let me just think my way through what I'm saying. In Egypt, they used to say the Sphinx and all the images that came out of Egypt easily did not look African. But you see, when you land in Africa, then you have an understanding that there are many different people here of different phenotypes.
Yep.
So when you look at the Olmec, believe me, there are Africans that look like that. You know, from America, you guys used to have a way of speaking that doesn't lend real understanding to this subject. You know, you say, oh, he don't look African. I mean, what kind of a term is that? It doesn't tell us enough. It doesn't give us depth.
Well, if you're going to argue the diversity of Africa, sure. I mean, look, but the through line, the DNA says that what they've been able to find so far traces them to people that came across the Bering Strait, not to Africa. So it
doesn't say that.
You talk about
the people that came across the Bering Strait. The people that came across the Bering Strait were largely Mongoloid.
Yes.
The people that came into Central and South America in the first instances, the oldest, which is the Olmec, were coming in as far as they're concerned. This is what they are now telling us. They came in from the Australasia, Pacific, into Easter Island, and then into the Americas from that angle. Let's get this thing right. I've read these books. I know where we're going with this.
I will take your commentary under advisement. Did any of that tie to Africa?
Well, for me, my brother, the way I look at it,
so
because
the answer is no.
No, the answer is not no. The answer needs understanding, my brother. What it is that if you look at the children of Mansa Musa, they were said to have traveled twice to the Americas.
His brother.
Now,
it was his brother, allegedly.
Is it brother or younger son? Maybe brother, as you say.
No, it was his older brother.
Okay, very good. Now, yeah, exactly. The next one is that as we came out of Africa from the east of Africa and we entered into the Levant, entered into Asia, entered into Europe, entered into China, through our first spot was Australia, coming in over the Indian Ocean. Now, what they are saying is that black people or peoples would have traveled from there into the Americas. Now, I will tell you that these people were African in their first utterances. Time has moved on. Time has really moved. The people of the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, the people of North Africa, as we see them now and we have an understanding of who peoples that specific geography, we have to appreciate that they were not the people there all of the time.
And that's what I'm saying about America.
They are new people.
They are new people too. The people you're talking about are Spanish people.
The best that we can come up with is a question mark. It's not a period or an exclamation. That there are questions of which the science and the DNA still needs to be unrolled. I'm not even saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying that it is not a definitive, yes, this is true. But what we do know, and that is true, is that there was a triangular African slave trade, and that most of the black anything in the Americas came through that trade. Now, was there
so
this?
Have you ever heard about?
Was there this?
Great name land, my brother. Sorry, Philip.
Y'all don't let me talk either. You didn't give me the respect.
Yeah. Finish what you're trying to say. Name land.
You didn't give me the respect either. You didn't give me the respect to finish what I had to say.
All I'm saying is that you are on such a remote thread of thought that hasn't been fully proved up by science. Let's even say that you are a forerunner of what we've been able to prove. That in such a way that why would we even land on that? What we do know and we can prove, is the African triangular trade. This other stuff, it's possible. Now, listen, everybody's got an opinion about this. I don't know enough about it to definitively say it, but the stuff that's been uncovered so far leaves us with a question mark, not with a period. And that's all I'm saying.
That's fair.
Okay, so have you ever heard? Okay, in the book Indian Slavery and Colonial.
Yeah, we lost them. No, you know what? So people, and we're gonna close out. People keep saying, "Dynas, why do you give these people a platform?" I think people need to see and witness the Black identity crisis live and in real time. The Black American identity crisis live in real time. I think people need to see that.
Real talk.
Yeah, no, it's an issue.
It is an identity crisis. Full stop. It is.
And then Philip, like I said before in the past, the only reason why Black people are claiming to be Aboriginal to America, and the only reason why Black people are claiming to be Aboriginal to Israel is because right now, Israel and America are viewed as the winning teams, and people want to attach themselves to the winning teams. And sub-Saharan Africa is not.
No, that's a real thing.
And that's just keep it simple. I mean, I look like the Olmec. Is your proof, your scientific and archaeological proof that the Olmecs are African? You know, my grandmama said that our hair, we got good hair, so we Indian, we Waukesha, Choctaw Indians because my grandmama said so. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think people need to see. That's why I give them a platform. That's why I let them come on here and talk and run their mouths, because people need to see the Black American identity. Because Jagoon, are there Black people in the UK talking about that they are the ancestors of Cheddar Man?
No, not directly. However, because you're right, you're so right about the confusion that we have identity-wise. We do feel that the English themselves need to take note that we were here first. I mean, it is their archaeological find, and we have to appreciate, us Black people have to appreciate that our history is untold. We don't know it.
No, but Jagoon, I'm saying, Jagoon, are there Black people right now in the UK saying that they're not Black Caribbeans or Black?
No, not in that way.
Saying that they are indigenous to the
UK. No, we're not directly saying that here.
This shit only comes out of America. This is crazy shit only comes out of America.
This is the thing.
And Phil, I'll pass it to you, Phil. And it originates, in my honest opinion, it originates from the prison system. All this crazy shit comes from the prison system. If you look at all of these teachers who started pushing this stuff, they did time in the pen. Then when they got out the pen, they start coming with all this crazy. And nothing against our teachers who spent time behind bars. But all of this crazy shit comes from the prison system. I am convinced.
Why?
All I was trying to take this young man to see is, at best, it's a question mark. It's not something you can build your cornerstone on. And if you are one of these people that is really hoping and behind the reparations movement, you cannot have African indigenous on one side as a buyer and have African continentals on the other side as a seller and bring a claim of any sort against the Europeans, because you're on both sides of the transaction.
I do understand that. I do understand what you've been saying there, and it is deep and convoluted. And what I would suggest and what I would say is that are we ourselves having, when I say ourselves, not necessarily us on this platform, ourselves in the diaspora on the continent, having a real good understanding philosophically, historically, scientifically about what actually took place. Now, since people like our Senegalese brother, the old guy, I've forgotten his name momentarily, Anta Diop. Since Anta Diop, there's not really been a science program looking into finding and understanding our global reach. Now, Anta Diop was protecting and defending the fact that Egypt is African. And when he came out with his studies, it was largely shunned. However, people keep, and when I say people, those within his professional field of science and archaeology keep having to go back to his studies and bringing out what he said almost 50, 60 years ago to bring it up to date with what the new findings are in Egypt, specifically to us as Africans. Now, I don't believe that we globally are doing enough work to make the claims that we make. We're making all these claims based out of God knows what, a lot of the times, but nothing that meets the necessary criteria that can satisfy a real educational thesis that is respected. And this is my issue with all these claims that we're having out there. And I tend to agree deeply with what Dynast has said. It's because we're on the losing side, and nobody wants to be attributed to the losing side. It's very, very simple.
I think that's true, and Skip Gates has done several shows on PBS showing that very thing. I want to address this, though, because this is a contention point that we don't seem to understand. The native people were the backstop of African slavery in the U.S. colonies. If they allowed African slaves, when they escaped, to exist and be freed, then slavery would not have worked. You needed to have an enclosure on the back end, meaning an agreement between the native people and the European settler colonists to hold these Africans as slaves. You had to have that. That it institutionally, economically would not have worked.
Well, I think there was a lot of ignorance on the side of the African, and this is not because we are Africans here on board speaking of this. The African slave trade, as far as the Europeans saw it as slavery, was rather indentured. It would last a term, years. People would be released from their pillory in terms of slavery and be a part of the community. People's children inherited from the masters. So the whole thing was completely different. So while somebody was being sold on the African continent to the European and being transported to the Americas, the slavery that took place there was entirely a different thing, mate. Entirely, nobody knew.
Yes, but let me piggyback your thought so that we have a full thought for what we were talking about with this young man.
Sure,
you're correct. Indentured servitude was for a term, but then in the United States colonies, the Americas, we had this thing called Bacon's Rebellion, and during Bacon's Rebellion, and ironically, it was about the native people and what rights that they would have in terms of the indentured servants and actually some of the Africans that were there and some of the native people rose up against the elites. And what the elites discovered was that this was, I believe, was in Virginia, that that they could lose control of the colony if there was a coalition of the Africans, the natives, and the working indentured servants. So this is when they start to come up with the laws that create whiteness.
Absolutely.
Not blackness, but whiteness. That set of laws and privileges.
You see, once I'm aware of this, I feel again that just looking back at history in terms of a afterthought, if you like, when we saw what took place in Haiti, now over the Caribbean and in certain parts of America, USA, this was known that this took place, that the Haitians beat not only who was never beaten before in what's his name now? The French Napoleon. He beat Napoleon. Then the British came to eat what was left of the crumbs. The Haitians beat them down. The Americans and French came again. The French came again. They got beaten down by the Haitians. Now, this was a very African slave upheaval, where basically they took over the whole territory that they call Haiti. They gave it its name back. Its original indigenous name. Now, this is a very powerful thing when we think about it in today. And I don't believe that we, as a black people again, are learning enough from what really took place successfully. Even though the whole world now ganged up for the last 400 years against Haiti, they've just finished paying off their loan to France about 20 years ago, something like that. The whole country has just been demoralized because of that victory. And we haven't done any studies, none. There's nothing in any university that speaks about not just what took place, but the success of it and what that success meant and what the lessons are to be learned from that. This kind of
there is Professor Gerald Horn, and he spells his last name has written some wonderful books about Haiti and Cuba and the basically fear of Haitification that was all over the press at that time, because Haiti did indeed fund other revolutionary movements to free slaves. Specifically, they funded in Colombia, Venezuela.
That's right. Yep.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of what the guy's name is, but he lost several times, and then he came to Haiti, and they coached him up and gave him some money. Number one of which they told him to free the slaves, right? And then there's a betrayal that happens after he's able to free 4 or 5 of the Latin countries, because there was a fear that with all these freed slaves, that then that would threaten the superstructure of the European descendants.
Hey guys, listen, I have to go get Mansa, so let me.
Okay. And we went way long. But the point I just want to land on this is that this indigenous argument is really dangerous to the reparations efforts, and anybody that cares about any of this.
Dennis, I know you want to close out.
I have to go, but we can always.
No, it's just one question.
I gotta go. Hey, everyone, thank you so much for
it doesn't need to be answered.
Subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Amir, search for Haru. Peace.